right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I'm your host, Lunch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. And let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party, guys. That is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever. Again, I've been going live every single day, and it's running me a little ragged. That's why I'm, doing this early tonight. Gonna head to the after party, and I gotta get some sleep. And I do not think I am gonna be streaming tomorrow. I just need some sleep. But if you would like to support the platform, head on over to theindianjesus.com for your very own official merch. We of course do have our free Discord server where you can join for like-minded people 24/7. We are in there hanging out, having interesting conversations, and like I said, it's free to join. But if you want full access, there's the free channels, but there's full access. All you got to do is scroll right below this video, become a member of this YouTube channel, and not only do you get members only live streams and all that good stuff here, but full access to the Discord server, which includes, as I mentioned before, the after party, where you are not stuck behind your keyboard. We don't have to worry about YouTube censors, anything like that. You are on screen with me and everybody else. It's a grand old time. Come and join us. All right, so it's been pretty slow in politics. It's been pretty slow. But I do think that this is a relevant question here about who is going to be the VP. Now, obviously, we know that with sentencing and the debate and the DNC and all this stuff coming up in the next 6 to 8 weeks, then things could be completely different. But I think it's good, as always, I think it's good to take stock of where we are, so that when we see these drastic changes, we have a starting point from which to be like, okay, now I know it was there before, now it's here, now I'm, and you're not thrown for a loop. So a couple weeks ago, Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire had on our boy Vivek. So let's just dive right into it. As always, guys, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
We're joined by Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, a former presidential candidate, also now the host of a new podcast called Truth, available wherever you get your podcasts. Vivek, this is our first time speaking, I believe, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's good to finally talk to you. Follow a lot of your commentary, especially over the last year, but I think it's the first time we're sitting down.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start with a question you've gotten a million times, I'm sure, and are tired of. It's always a good place to start. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation that you could be on the list for vice president in the Trump administration. There was reporting a couple months ago that you were being considered instead for a position in the cabinet. Do you think you'll land somewhere in the Trump administration potentially?
So before he answers that, guys, I do have a poll up. Should Trump pick Vivek for VP? Yes or no? Replay gang, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you'd like to watch this without my commentary, I do like to pause and talk a lot. That's why I started a YouTube channel. You can watch the full unedited thing. The description is in. The link is in the description. Jesus.
Do you think you'll land somewhere in the Trump administration potentially?
I mean, look, my top focus is making sure he wins the election. And I think that Republicans win up and down the ballot so we can actually implement the agenda. But if he is successfully elected, and I'm doing everything in my power at this point to make sure that he is, then I hope to have a big impact in some way or other. And President Trump and I have built a pretty close relationship, especially over the last several months after I dropped out of the race.
Boys begin boys.
But even we had known each other for years before that. And I'm confident his second term can actually be even more successful than the first. And I'm going to look at however I can have the biggest possible impact on this country. And so we've had some great conversations, but I think the focus right now is not to put the cart before the horse, actually make sure that we're successful in winning the election. I personally believe that we're actually at risk of some complacency right now. You got a lot of people who are looking at the polls and celebrating and patting ourselves on the back. I actually think the real race has not even yet begun.
Right, and that can be in more ways than one, in the sense that, as I was just talking about, things could be completely switched up in the coming months. Shout out to our boy Zippy, DSM Lee in the building. Welcome to the party. Answering the poll said yes, he should, but JD Vance is a good pick. At least I think Vance is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, I need to look into these guys. Maybe that's maybe that's what we should have done tonight. It's just like look at all the guys on the short list. But I mean, I do think this is a very interesting conversation, and they addressed the Ann Coulter thing. But yeah, maybe for Friday we'll go through and we'll do, a little, not a deep dive, but like, all right, we know a decent amount about Vivek, but when it comes to JD Vance and what is it, Tim Scott, I mean, we know Marco Rubio, but I haven't really like followed him in any real capacity. So good idea. Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I agree. But like I said, I'm not too familiar with the others, so that's just my brown bias coming out.
Ourselves on the back. I actually think the real race has not even yet begun, in the sense that you look at the first presidential debate that's on June 27th, I think it is. That's the earliest ever presidential debate ever held. It's before even the Democratic National.
Oh yeah, happy Juneteenth, everybody! Happy Juneteenth. I don't know why I said that sarcastically. Like, I just forgot that it was a thing, but it is indeed Juneteenth. So happy Juneteenth. Welcome to the party, and good to see you. Good to see you. How are you doing?
I think it is. That's the earliest ever presidential debate ever held. It's before even the Democratic National Convention.
Oh, and I'm sure that's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence that they're doing the debate before the DNC. It's almost like that's the final test for Biden. And if it goes well, it's like, all right, we'll keep going with Biden. If it doesn't, then let's switch course and throw somebody in there. And I was watching somebody online earlier talk about how with the rules, if they wanted to switch Biden out before the DNC, they would have to go back and do the primaries and delegates and all that stuff. But after the DNC occurs, then if they want to switch somebody, they can just pick whoever. Shout out getting you today, like that name. Welcome yet another day indeed. Welcome to the party, brother.
Earliest ever presidential debate ever held. It's before even the Democratic National Convention. That's not an accident. I think that is the final audition before Biden actually becomes christened as the nominee, if he will be.
See, guys, I actually, no, I lied to you. I completely watched and wrote down every word of this so that I could seem smart. Not.
So I think there's going to be a lot of twists and turns left this year. And so I'm taking it, one step at a time and seeing how I can maximize my own impact along the way.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the debate, but before we get there, let me just ask you this. If you could do anything at all in any presidential administration, have any job you wanted, what
I like this.
would you take? I mean, obviously you take president, but if you can't have that.
Well, I was laughing because I ran for U.S. president for last year.
Except
for
that,
I intended to go for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was implied. Like, obviously, we know that. But this is a good question because this is going to show where his mindset is in terms of, because we know that, I mean, we don't know now, but we know that he's looking to run again in 28. So obviously, VP is the most or the highest office. But I do think, as I've said a number of times, especially with Trump as the president, then it might be, because name one Mike Pence quote. You can't, bro. And so just the idea that there might be another position where he's a little bit more public facing and can get a little bit more stuffs to run on, as what's different between when you ran 4 years ago, Hey, we got our boy Guam Tech in the building. Welcome to Early Stream, and it's about Vivek. It's a good Wednesday indeed. Welcome. Yeah, I started a little bit early. We're a little bit early. I didn't want to, mess up the schedule too much, but we gotta. This, like I said, this streaming every day is throwing me for a loop. So I gotta figure out how to, get that work-life balance. You know what I mean? But for tonight, we gonna party. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
I was laughing because I ran for U.S. president for last year.
Except for that,
I intended to go for.
Except for that.
Yeah. So look, I think that one of the things about me is I come from outside the world of politics. I am used to being an executive. That's part of why I have not considered running for Congress or Senate. And those are important roles, but being a legislator is definitely not for me. But when you're thinking about my ability to use executive talent, how could I put that to use? Two of the issues I focused on most during the campaign were, number one, shutting down large swaths of the administrative state. That was probably the signature issue of my presidential campaign. It's part of what pulled me in. How do you shut down large numbers of federal bureaucrats? How do you fire them, send them packing, downsize the government by 75% or more? That's one category of issues that I think that largely you have to be a president or maybe a vice president or something like that that's above any one agency to be able to implement.
Okay, so he, I blew myself up here to ask, if he thinks that there is a better position than VP to be able to do that. Because of what I just said, and don't really understand, who's got more power to do this and that and that. I know that the director of of housing is going to be beneath the VP, but other than that, what is the best position to slash all these agencies?
Maybe a vice president or something like that that's above any one agency to be able to implement. The other category that I was intensely focused on is once and for all actually fixing the issue holistically of immigration in this country in a principled manner. How do we actually set up an immigration system that
get them out, send them out? I remember when Obama was president, and again, for those of you who don't know, I really wasn't into paying attention to politics specifically until after Obama, or the 2016, 2015, leading up to 2016. And I always just went along with like, okay, well, yeah, there's 11 million illegal immigrants. What are we going to do to deport 11 million people? And it's like, now? That's like, all right, well, that's a good start. That's a good start.
That actually advances the interests of U.S. citizens who are already here. That means your first act of entering this country can't break the law. That means that if you do have something of value to add to this country and you are actually embracing the values of this country, there should be an efficient process for the best of those people to get in.
Let's not forget, both of the brown men on your screen right now are first-generation Americans. Both of the brown men on your screen right now have parents who were legal immigrants. Just keep that in mind.
But that if you have entered this country illegally, and we're going to correct the mistakes of the past, we're going to have practical ways to do it. So those are two of the categories that I was certainly focused on most intently over the course of my presidential campaign. But I'm a big guy believing in how do you maximize impact and have fun while you're doing it. I got a good piece of advice pretty early in my career, which is, and it's true advice, which is it takes about as much effort to do something small and do it well as it does to do something big and do it well. And so if you're going to put the same amount of effort in, you might as well make it something big. And so that's why I ran for president. The beauty of this country is the people get to decide who leads, and they went with the tried and true option, who I support, Donald Trump. But the number one thing I'll be looking at is scope of impact, and that's what guides me.
I tend to think, I actually...
Did he answer? Did he give an answer as to what position would be best for that? I don't think he did.
I really didn't want you to be vice president because I tend to think it's a waste to put anyone talented or interesting in the vice presidential spot.
Right. It can be. It can be. Depending on who the president is, depending on what there's usually a pet project that the vice president takes on. Depending on what that is. Again, the idea here being getting as much public face time so that you stay relevant in people's minds and they see, oh, you're doing this. And then 2 months later, you're doing that. And then 2 months later, you're doing that. 4 years goes by, and every few months, at least once or twice a year, we're seeing, oh, wow, Vivek Ramaswamy did this, that, and the other. I think that is, the best way to go. Obviously, again, if he could choose. Quantix, I saw conservatives on Vivek videos commenting things like, oh, he's just an anchor baby. He doesn't have a chance. People can be so damn ignorant. Yeah, but, I think that is, I'm starting to realize that might just be cope. And actually, we'll come. I'm gonna start this. We're gonna come back to this when they're talking about the Ann Coulter thing, because I think you're right, but I think there's something else in the air. There's something else in the air, and I think it ties into this exactly. I think it ties into the meme right or the trans right. I think it ties right into that. I was just watching Lauren Chen's video on the new season of The Boys, and so they did a 3-episode drop. It's like only the first 3 episodes, And it's like we've known since the boys started that it was that there was leftists behind it, and they were trying to make the bad people like Republicans and the good guys, the Democrats, and whatever. And yes, it is a little bit more shallow as we've gotten further on. I'm trying not to give any spoilers, but you know the main guy is taking more and more power and becoming more and more powerful. And so that makes it easier for them to take that and be like, see, this is like the Trump thing. But like I said, the reason that I'm still okay watching the boys, despite the fact that they're trying to say that I'm a bad person because I support Trump, is that they're not explicitly stating it. They're not explicitly stating it. I know that that they think that, fine. But the story that I'm watching, the figurehead that is leading this group of people is a bad person. The people who are following this figurehead, they are bad people. And so even though they're meant to be an analog for real people like us and for Trump, they're not saying it outright. And I don't know why, but that does make a difference. Shout out to Gwenifer. Welcome to the party. Yeah, 80% of you said Vivek would be the best choice possible. And I agree. Welcome to the party. Getting you today said too many so-called elites in government. If you think they're willing to stop doing bad things, best possible position would be in a foreign government and take over. Yes, that would be ideal. But let's keep it down to the American government. Guys, if you could do me a huge favor and just hit that like button, it is free, it is easy, and it helps out the channel so much. Thank you very, very much. Zivik says Vivek is amazing. His inelegance cuts through race and religion. Even some Baptists I know like him. Well, there you go. So he goes on to say the White House used to have strike commissions to deal with certain issues and not deep state agencies. So commission meaning like an actual temporary thing. Interesting. The deep state is a foreign government based. Yep. Shout out to Brian Turner. Welcome to the party. Said, quote, if it isn't directed, it isn't respected. Welcome. Good to see you.
I tend to think, I actually didn't want you to be vice president because
It's drunk or you're drunk?
To think it's a waste to put anyone talented or interesting in the vice presidential spot. It just, to me, there's no real function. It ends up being sort of a wasted. If it is someone interesting, it's a waste of time to have them there. Do you think is that too cynical of you of the vice president?
I think it is. I think that it's a matter of, because who's the number one person that people are talking about if they do replace Biden? Who's the number one person that comes up? Give me in the chat. The number one person when they talk about, let's say, all this thing about, they're having the debate before the DNC. So they can use the debate as the final test, and then at the DNC they go and they make Biden the nominee, and then they can switch it out. Who's the number one person that, whether or not the person wants to do it, everybody's talking about? Come on, baby. Come on. Somebody, I'm vamping here. Somebody give me an answer. The one person that is at the top of the list of just average people and politicians, at least on our side of the aisle, being like, I think they're going to put this person in there. Nope. Okay, so Newsom's a good, but there's someone else I'm thinking of. Not Kamala. No, I'm thinking of Big Mike. And even though obviously, she wasn't a vice president, the first lady is also usually a very do nothing position. And so depending on how you use it, I think that's really the thing. So I don't think it's the position itself. I think it's just that very often he who is chosen to be vice president, ends up being boring. Temp commissions. Yeah, I like that. Temporary. Temporary with the government, but if we can, there you go. And obviously, she wasn't a vice president, like I said, but that same token of the first lady being not being a do nothing position. If you use it well, because remember she had her, first it was like stop eating sugar. And then the sugar company was like, "Hey, whoa, hey, we ain't doing that." So it's like, "Okay, jump rope." Then people latched onto it. Zuby said the first lady hates Biden, so the first lady hates the Bidens. So the scuttlebutt says the first lady is a Biden. I don't know if you know that, but the first lady is Joe Biden. Shout out to Dr. E. Welcome to the party. Savior of America. I am here. I'm the Indian Jesus here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Welcome to the party. Gonsex said VP right now is just a stepping stone for a shot at being the next guy in charge. Even under that criteria, Vivek is still the best option. Love it. Gwenifer said if they give him a rhino as VP, they'll be able to get rid of him. I agree. However, well, because would you apply this to Marco Rubio? Because I don't necessarily think of Rubio as a rhino. I think there's a huge overlap between rhino and neocon. And I would say Rubio is more of a neocon. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily call him a rhino though. Let me saying I meant Big Mike hates the Bidens. So remember, Obama was the only in government for 4 years before getting elected. So Obama had to work with slimy pants Joe. Indeed, he's rhinoing up. Can't disagree with that. And we got our boy Jay. Welcome. Good to see you. No apologies necessary. I was early. So you are right on time. And guys, you never need to apologize for being late. Even if you come in at the very last minute just to say hi, I very, very much appreciate that you even think about me and my existence. So thank you for being here. Whatever said either or, they prefer a rhino or a neocon because they both support big war. I think it's a little bit deeper than that because I think it's about appealing to the rhino neocon base. As much as, Republicans are Republicans and they're not Democrats, there still is the uniparty that exists. And so the more, or rather the less radical of the Democrats can very easily be like, okay, well, I'm ready to reach across the aisle for somebody like Marco Rubio. And I think that comes into it. And as much as I do, want Vivek in the best possible position for 28, we still have to make sure that we keep 2024 at the forefront. Because, again, I believe this is an existential election for America. I don't think there is a 28 election if Trump doesn't win.
It's a waste of time to have them there. Do you think is that too cynical a view of the vice presidency?
Oh, I don't think it's cynical. I think that part of what you're doing is just looking at American history, right? And so I don't think that your assessment is unfair when you look at most vice presidents in American history, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
I do think it all comes down to how you want to run the show as an executive. The top dog is the U.S. president. And I think the beauty of having a U.S. president that isn't a professional politician, I put Donald Trump in that category, of course, is that he does like to do things differently. And so it's up to him. What does he want out of a vice president versus a cabinet secretary versus a special advisor versus, any number of other positions in the government? I think the beauty is if you have a president who's actually going to run the government, you could think about that a little bit differently. The thing that bothers the heck out of me is the people we elect to run the government, usually even including the U.S. president, are not actually the people who run the government, right? It's the permanent state that sits underneath the rotating cast of musical chairs on top that they view as cute little puppets that come and go every few years. So
and I mean, especially with Biden, they ain't wrong.
In that context, the typecast that you would put for vice president, yeah, I don't think your comment is unfair, but I don't think it has to be that way if you have an actual commander-in-chief and chief executive who's the one running the show rather than just a pawn on the chessboard of the deep state that is usually there long after president arrives, long before president arrived and long after they're gone. My hope is it doesn't have to be that way. And if there's a president who I'd bet on to do things a little differently, it would be somebody coming from the outside like Trump.
You mentioned the debate. So there's obviously kind of
fair enough. Word up. I like that answer. That it's not cynical to say that the VP has historically been not that big of a deal, but at the end of the day, it's a matter of what you do with the position. Whatever said either or. They'd prefer a rhino or a neocon because they. Oh, did we get that one? Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Shout out to our boy Brad Devine. Welcome to the party. So the more they go towards the middle of the Republican Party, they start hitting regular non-MAGA Christian-backed folks. How are they going to pair that up with the MAGA side? Yeah, and that's the question, and that's why I think somebody like a Rubio might be, enough. Now, the question then is for those middle of the Republican Party, uniparty people, is Trump bad and or is the difference between like in 2020, yeah, okay, choosing Biden over Trump because of mean tweets and that makes a little bit more sense. Now you really have to hate Trump as a Republican to not be like, all right, guys, what are we doing here? The man can't walk, the man can't speak, he doesn't know what planet he's on. So it raises the question: do we need somebody to kind of rein in the neocons and the rhinos? Hey, look who we got! Our boy Nicholas Luchetti. Welcome to the party. Long time no see. So glad to see you, brother. Dilly to you. Welcome back, brother. It's good to see you too. Mr. Houston, watch me get sick. And what? I'm good. From
the outside, like Trump.
You mentioned the debate. So there's obviously kind of two schools of thought on this. One is that it's a mistake for Trump to do the debate, playing right into Biden's hands. Biden is the one who needs it because he's desperate and he's flailing.
Let's do a poll on that one because I'm curious where you guys think. So let's say, is it a mistake for Trump to do this debate? This debate, meaning, they cut the mics. There's no audience. It's Jake Tapper, and it's very pushed in the realm of helping Biden. And so, not to debate in general, because obviously, yes, if we're going to do a debate in normal circumstances, no question. But this debate should is it a mistake for Trump to do this debate? You are very welcome, buddy. I'm very glad to see you.
Playing right into Biden's hands. Biden is the one who needs it because he's desperate and he's flailing. Then there's the other side that says, well, this is to get a shot at Biden on the stage, live on camera. You can't pass that up, especially because the guy is, as we know, half senile and can barely string together two coherent sentences. I'm probably in the second school of thought. I think that even though they're stacking the deck against Trump, cutting the mics off after a minute, obviously we know the moderators are going to be on Biden's side. It's just you got to take that chance if you get it. Where do you stand on that?
I agree with Matt. I think that it's not going. Trump's thing is to play to the audience. Trump's thing is to kind of talk over. But if you remember the last debate that they did, one of the big criticisms was that Trump didn't give Biden enough rope to hang himself with. And I think this time, the whoever you want to call them, the people who are saying, oh, let's cut the legs, I think that's actually going to help Trump more than they think, because if they cut the mic, then there's no opportunity for them to see, look, Trump is being brash and mean and whatever. He's just talking when they let him talk. And so I think that actually helps him. And again, because looking at the last election, they were like, hey, whoa, relax. And so I like the idea of the debate because Biden doesn't hold a candle, but I don't like the terms he agreed to and predict they will impart shenanigans, the usual. Yep. Hey, shout out to our boy John. Welcome to the party. So yes to a debate known to Jake Tapper. Well, that's this debate. That's what they're doing. It is a CNN debate, no crowd. Mike's cut after the time is done. So in this particular debate, should he do it? So he said Trump can screw up during the debate, but I do not think Biden will get enough sympathy votes. I'm trying to play it out. So what does this look like to you? Play this out to me. What does that look like to you? Brad said, I think you're going to see the whole middle of the Republican regular Christian not come out to vote at all or go silent and vote for Biden. Trump can't survive an actual debate with no facts. I completely disagree with you on that one. Hey, shout out to our boy, the Funk Master General, coming in hot with the $10 super chat. Can I get you out? Yep. Oh, no. Let me pull it down here, and then there's going to be a banner. Of course, there's always a goddamn banner. There's a goddamn banner. All right, here we go. Here we go. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much, sir. And again, I don't know what did you guys? Oh, let's take this opportunity. Did you guys see last night when Funkmaster sent a super chat? Because I don't know if I missed it or if it didn't show up or whatever. Either way, if you guys see that if somebody super chatted and I just skipped it, please do me a favor and let me know. Not only because I want to give you guys the credit and the thanks that I very much feel, but also selfishly, it's a business thing. Like if I'm just ignoring super chats, then people are not gonna send super chats as much. So thank you again, sir, and for the $10 one last night. Very, very, very much appreciated. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to Burner Popcorn Account. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I want either Vivek or Byron Donalds. None of the other asshats in the mix. Definitely not Marco Rubio. So that again, this is the thinking that he's too far in their in their world, in the neocon world. And I don't necessarily disagree, but I do see that if we are saying that you have to be like a traitor to your party at this point to go Biden over Trump, there is like Brad's saying, they might just go the silent majority might go the other way. I highly doubt that, but indeed we will see in 4K. But yeah, and yeah, so everybody, I'm fair enough. I'm trying to see the landscape for what it is. Too many boring rhinos in the VP ring. Well, that and that goes back to the idea that it can be a very do nothing position. And if a rhino is in that position, then good. I want the rhino or the neocon to bring in the other neocon rhino votes and then do nothing. But if we get Vivek, then I still think we're in the position where we will get the votes for Trump, and then Vivek can actually do some shit. Before we dive back in, let's say hello to our boy Dylan Soup. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Good to see ya.
It's just you got to take that chance if you get it. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, look, I think Trump should absolutely do the debate. I mean, between the world we were in, which is Biden effectively refusing to debate and showing up on the debate stage, the right answer is show up on the debate stage. And it's one of the things I've liked about the approach that President Trump has taken. And he and I have had a lot of good conversations, and anything I would say certainly points more in this direction. Show up in the places where you're not expected to show up. He went to the Bronx. I spoke at the Libertarian Convention last Friday. Trump obviously spoke there Saturday night, not to an entirely friendly audience, which I think is a good thing. If you're going to be the U.S. president, you got to be willing to face off with people who may not necessarily agree with you.
True. Let's pause real quick and give a big thank you to Zippy DSM Lee for the Rumble rant. Said for Nick and for Doggy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here we got. Let me get a small piece. So we're gonna double up. We're gonna double up. Thank you, sir. Very, very, very much appreciated. You guys are awesome.
U.S. president, you got to be willing to face off with people who may not necessarily agree with you on everything. And the irony is they would criticize Donald Trump for talking to sycophants only. That's what the press criticized him for. And yet he's actually the person who's showing up from the South Bronx to places like the Libertarian Convention, a nominating convention of a different political party. So given that that's the approach that Donald Trump has taken, I do think it would be totally consistent. I mean, it would be the only consistent thing to say that I'm actually going to debate the other guy who's been ducking those debates. Now, Biden, not so much Biden, but probably his handlers around him, I think played it quite strategically. right? So give credit to the puppet masters, whoever was the right puppet master to pull this string. The idea that you make it an early debate, and that wasn't even smart for Biden. That's smart for the Democratic Party, because I think it is obvious. I think it's 3 months earlier than they've ever held a televised presidential debate in U.S. history. It is the first time, to my knowledge, that it's occurring before the nominating convention of either major party. This is obviously the final audition, the final hoop they're making the old man jump through before they nominate him. And they've set itself up for a win-win, right? So one win is the one you mentioned, is they make him look better than the expectations that have been set for him. They like that the expectations that have been set low. I think they're actually leaning into that. But they've set up the best possible showing. CNN, home turf, no audience, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, 1-minute responses. And if he exceeds expectations, which they're trying to set him up for, then their hope is that resets the race. Because
So Brad's got a good question here. So why would you think that Byron would make a good VP choice? The vast majority of African Americans I speak with won't take ownership of Byron. That's interesting. I hadn't heard or thought about that. And I wonder how much that will affect the vote in general, because I think the fact that Trump is doing very well with the black vote in general, I don't know that a VP choice, any of the VP choices would hurt him, especially not if it's the black guy, just because he's a black guy, you know? John said jailing Trump may inspire him to actually select an alpha male candidate. Maybe. Mr. E said, thank you for allowing me to be part of your stream and the journey that you are on. Well, shout out to you. Thank you for being here and, having allowing me to have a journey that is going on. I appreciate it. Dilly dilly to all of you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Brad says the Jim Crow statements are cringe and it hurt his chances at anything. What did he say? I didn't see what he said. All right, let's back this up.
Audience, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, 1-minute responses. And if he exceeds expectations, which they're trying to set him up for, then their hope is that resets the race. Because the whole narrative was he was too senile to be president. His expectations have been set low that he set up for success. But
they're going to have him on so many drugs. I think that okay, here's a prediction. I think they're going to put so many drugs in this man's body that it's going to backfire. He's going to be like, and it's going to be worse than if he was just dead sober. That's my guess.
But if he doesn't, which I actually think is likely to happen, then it's a win-win for them because they still have ample time to be able to replace him as the nominee. That under these most favorable of circumstances, if he can't even hold his own, and we're talking about June, there's no way he's then going to get to November. So was the other side absolutely strategic and clever and even diabolical in the way they set this up? Absolutely. But does that mean it was the wrong decision for President Trump to do it? No, it was absolutely the right decision. It's exactly the ethos he's cultivated as the guy who's going to man up, show up, be the commander in chief in a way that Joe Biden wasn't.
Definitely wasn't. So Zippy said Trump's mouth will endlessly run even with the mic off. It will be so bad Biden gets more votes out of sympathy. But then you said doubtful. Are you saying that that's doubtful, what you just said? Or what's doubtful? Because I don't know. I think that, again, the mistake of the last debate of trying too hard to beat Trump, I think enough people saw that. And as much as we can, rag on Trump for, being hard-headed and not listening to the right people or listening to the wrong people, I have confidence. I have confidence that he's like, okay, I see what's happening here, and I know the game that I have to play. Let him talk. Just let him talk. That's it. Where are we here? Give him alpha brain. There you go. Brad said he stated the fact that African American families were better off during Jim Crow. They were. Comparatively, they were. Yeah. Oh, this is what Tim Pool's talking about, the heart attack, when it's like, oh no, and then Newsom is there. He's like, dun, 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 dun. Biden, President Biden. And he's like, hey, Jack. My dying wish is, man, for you to take my spot. And then everybody's like, oh my God, Gavin Newsom, we love you. Not impossible. Not nearly impossible. Shout out to Arjun. Welcome. Yeah, and I agree with the statement. If we are to look at the average black family, they're worse off. Now, of course, there's a wide range of exceptions, but if we're looking at averages and we're looking at the generalities, one in 4 families has a father in the home in the black community. That was not the case during Jim Crow. And so when I get what you guys are saying, that how black people might hear this, but he's not wrong. And I think that I'm going to give generally black people enough credit to understand what this means. There's going to be a lot of people who don't like it and be like, oh, what you're racist, whatever. But and definitely if a white man said it, like when Matt Walsh or Charlie Kirk or somebody says it, they're like, how dare you? But words do matter, but so does the truth. So I don't know. We'll see. We will see. Guamtex, the idea that Trump will be hurt by the debate is so manufactured. The machine is scared. I agree. 100%. Shout out to Mike W. Welcome. So I think Trump knows the game better now than he ever has. I agree. And this is with the caveat that, like, okay, he doesn't know the game as well as, lifelong politicians, career politicians. But what I think Mike is trying to say here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that a lot of the personnel type mistakes that we saw in his first presidency, maybe won't be nothing, but that's going to be something that he knows to be on guard. And if nothing, the man learns from his mistakes. Burner Popcorn Account said Byron's statements were definitely taken out of context. He was saying, despite being in the Jim Crow era, black Americans had more intact family values compared to today. And so the question is, how is the average black person hearing that statement? If they're understanding this, which I'm going to give the credit to the black community, that they understand this. I think there's going to be a lot of people, of course, who be like, "Oh my God, that's racist," but Nick said Biden will be looking like Hitler and playing with himself. Don't let him snip any kids. Protect the children. Oh, Nick coming in hard. Jim Crow is alive and well in gun law. True. All right. Let's see what we got. Trump must debate. Let's see that cognitive test live and in living color. Yeah. That's another thing the Democrats are trying to push. Like, well, what do you mean? They're both old and they're both senile. Like, are they though? Like, Trump is old, yeah, but he's spry. So people need to stop projecting their own biases onto other people's words. It's annoying. His words were specific and true, so the emotionality is getting old. And Berner agrees. And again, this is what I think, specifically talking about the black community. There's a lot of people waking up to realize that, exactly like Mike is saying, words don't matter. Actions matter. And the Democrats will say all the nice words and then do nothing. So, it's tough. I mean, that's a really good question. I would love to see how that statement was received among black voters. But all right, let's dive back in here.
Motivate President Trump to do it? No, it was absolutely the right decision. It's exactly the ethos he's cultivated as the guy who's going to man up, show up, be the commander in chief in a way that Joe Biden wasn't. And so I don't think that skipping that debate was ever an option.
Do you really think it's plausible that somehow Biden at this point is not actually the nominee? And if it is a plausible scenario, then who? I kind of figure they're stuck with him, because who else are they going to put in his place at this stage of the game? Everyone always says Michelle Obama. As far as I know, not that I have any insight into it, but she has no interest. So do you think it's a plausible scenario? And then who else would it be if not Biden?
Yeah. So look, I tend to look at things in life, and when you're making predictions as, none of us is God. None of us is going to divine some theory of what's going to happen. But what you can do is look at the collective incentives that are on the board, right? And what are the incentive they have? This system has made clear that they will do anything. And I increasingly believe it is anything to stop Donald Trump from getting back into the White House, right? First, it was civil suits. Then it's state level prosecutions, then federal prosecutions. Then you've got extrajudicial attempts to remove him from a ballot. I mean, they stop at nothing. So at this point, they have evidence that suggests that across all of the swing states across this country, Biden is performing very poorly, and the trends are actually going in the further wrong direction for him.
Yup. Let's shout out baby Maharaja. Welcome to the party. So Vivek would be my first choice, but I like Byron Donalds and Tulsi Gabbard too. I forgot Tulsi was even a part of this. Yeah, I think that's what we got. We gonna do on Friday. We're gonna have to not like a super deep dive. Vice presidential candidates for Friday. All right, so we're definitely gonna do that, and we'll come up with the one, the types of metrics that we want to look at these people. How much do they bring in new voters? How much do they align with Trump? What can we expect them to do? Talking about Burns, my ex-liberal. Sorry, haven't seen that in a sentence in a while. My ex-liberal POC friend loves Vivek and Byron Donalds and will probably vote Trump after voting Biden in 2020. There we go. She goes on to say, I really want to know if Black Americans genuinely don't like Byron Donalds or if they're just being told he's bad without knowing anything about him. That is exactly my question. Completely agree. My newest favorite conspiracy theory is that Biden has been playing up the malfunctions around the world as a representation of how the powers that be actually set America failing and it's on its last leg. Either that or he's playing it up as an out for the new Dem candidate. I don't know, man. I think it's just old. And I don't think that anybody in the establishment expected Trump to win. And it just threw everything at the wrench in the whole system. And they're finally, they have the all the Russiagate stuff and trying to lock up Trump the entire last decade. Then they in 2020 mess with the rules and all that stuff. All that really shows that like this is none of this is going to plan. And said, do you guys think that if Gavin Newsom would win if nominated in replacing Biden? I've also heard Hillary. I've also seen reports of dissident centers being placed in states. What is a dissident center? I don't think they would use Hillary. I think that I don't see it. I think if they're looking for a replacement, then it's got to be somebody that's going to be fresh and it's like, oh wow, finally, it's not Trump and it's not Biden. Remember the people who are voting for Biden are going to sit out because of that dichotomy. They need someone else to be excited about. And if it's just another election that we've already gone through, I don't think that's exciting enough. I think President Gavin Newsom is a lot of our worst nightmares.
Yes, that across all of the swing states across this country, Biden is performing very poorly, and the trends are actually going in the further wrong direction for him. So if that's their top objective, how are they going to achieve that objective?
President, just to clear something up, I'm not a fan of Biden, but I'll not vote with Christian nationalists, Nazis, racists, or chaos. Am I wrong? Please give me a review of how it will work out. How what will work out? I don't know what you're referring to. But I mean, no, you're not wrong that Nazis, racists, and Christian nationalists. I mean, I don't like any of them either. But I don't see how that's relevant.
For him. So if that's their top objective, how are they going to achieve that objective? Who would be the candidate that they would put up? Who's going to maximize those odds? Do I think it's plausible? Yes, it is. If you look into the Democratic National Convention nominating rules, it's plain as day that they have plenty of time, even between now and the convention, to be able to switch who the nominee is. There's an election lawyer I spoke to pressure test this, just out of my own curiosity to understand, is this actually, as a technical matter, legally feasible? The answer is hands down. Yeah. The rules allow for it. Turns out even after the convention, if it's in cases of disability or voluntary stepping aside of the candidate, there's also procedures for the way they could swap out who's on a ballot. The only time it becomes really hard for them to do it is when the ballots are actually printed.
Yes.
Right? When the names are on the ballot, then I think we're entering a zone where it becomes impossible.
Yes. So I forgot that was the other part of this video that I was seeing about, this lady talking about how if they try to, if they elect, if they nominate Biden at the DNC and then want to switch him, then or switch out the candidate, then they can just put somebody in there. But even worse than that, according to this lady, She showed something with text, so I'm going to assume that it was legitimate. But according to this lady in the text that she was referencing, that if something happens between the time that the ballots are printed and election day, where Joe Biden is on the ballot, but then for whatever reason, is deemed unfit or whatever, then anybody who doesn't know that and votes for Biden, that goes to the DNC, and they can put that vote towards whoever they want. And so it's not even about switching the candidate on the ballot. It's switching the candidate, but keeping Joe's name there. So everybody's like, oh, this is the not Trump guy, right? Remember how that's the level of political engagement of your average person. They're looking for the not Trump guy, not having any idea that Biden's not even in the race anymore. So that would be worst case scenario. Gone thinks I would leave the country if Gavin became president. I don't say that lightly. I don't know. I mean, and go where? Go where? Go where? Where are you gonna go? I don't know. Brad said, if post January 5th, if Trump wins, what happens? With what? He becomes the president then. I don't understand what you're asking. Maybe Burner does. Well, I'll be voting Trump. And 1, I'm not white. 2, not racist. 3, not a Christian nationalist. In fact, I don't know or have personally come across any Trump voters who are any of those. I said, shit, me too. Well, I've seen a couple Christian nationalists, but other than that, and a couple of racists too. But in general, most are not. Most are not. And there's a ton of racists and Nazis in the Biden camp. So just my personal opinion.
Right, when the names are on the ballot, then I think we're entering a zone where it becomes impossible. But until then, we've seen nominees change far later than this over the course of American history. And one of the traps sometimes we fall into in the present, I think it's probably true of all people ever, but it's definitely true of us now too, is somehow believing that we're immune from the trends of history. Right?
Free trade.
You read about crazy stories in history and then somehow believe that can't happen in the present. Well, what do you think history was when that transpired too? So this would be far from the craziest thing in U.S. history. Wouldn't even rank in the top 10 of presidential races to be able to see Joe Biden ousted as the nominee in the month of June. Like that would go down in the annals of U.S. history as maybe a footnote at most. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. So is it possible? Yes. Who would they put up? I do think then you look at the collective incentives. Most people they put up, their bench is not very good. I mean, I think they're going to have some pretty poor candidates to choose from.
But as Mike is saying, the again, correct me if I'm twisting your words, but I think means that just being number one, the fact that he's been the leader of California for a long time, he's a tall, attractive, well-spoken dude. I think, and unfortunately, that has a very, very, very big impact on how people vote. So Trump gets rid of income taxes on and taxes on tips. That would be epic. Hell yeah. Can you imagine? Federal amazing. Hey, look what we got. Kevin Johnson in the building. Welcome. So Candace Owens had no hesitation when Sagar from Breaking Points asked if Vivek would be the best VP. There you go. Welcome. Burner Popcorn counts as my life was sure better under President Trump. I said, shit, me too. And a lot of people are trying to say, well, it would have been better. He was handed a great economy and then COVID happened and Biden had to deal with COVID. True. But also, we're years later and none of we haven't returned even to where we were when it was as good as it was. So to say that it's even better, we're still recovering. We should have been recovered. That should have been your presidency, is bringing us back from the brink. Instead, you're sending billions and billions and trillions of dollars to God knows where, and flooding the country with illegal immigrants. Like, that's going to affect the economy by a lot. Brad said COVID money and lots of rest from shutdown is the only thing that made life better during then. Yep. Agreed. Brad said, certainly had my disappointments in the Trump presidency, but shit is so bad now and will only get worse under a second Biden term. I agree. Again, I think this is existential. I don't think that we get to 2028 without Trump winning here. Ken said, income would go up, but prices will too for the entire world. So with the quality, more American stuff. Not to mention 3D printers set to every commie country, so Xi and Putin can fear people, aka Burma, for abolishing income tax. I don't know about all that. That's that. I mean, why would that be the case? Why would that be the case? Hey, you been here? No.
People they put up, their bench is not very good. I mean, I think they're going to have some pretty poor candidates to choose from. You got Gretchen Whitmer. I don't think that she's a particularly compelling leader. You got other people who are hungering for it. Gavin Newsom, he's unfortunately saddled with the albatross of his record as governor of California, that and being a straight white man or whatever it is that the Democratic Party might have nominating in lieu of another straight white man, which actually hangs out to dry a lot of their far left identity politic obsessed progressive wing. So I think it narrows down the options that are available to them. I think.
Yeah, I love this, Nick. Does it make anyone else sick to hear Biden say crime is down? Only the reporting of crime is down. Well, not to mention that they changed a lot of the rules to make things that used to be crimes not crimes, or at least lowered them from how they measure this stuff. And yes, it makes me sick as well. Absolutely.
So I think it narrows down the options that are available to them. I think the most compelling option, especially if you're talking about a late switch, would likely be Michelle Obama. And I say this because it goes with the timing of the matter, which is you get all of the sheen, right? You get the initial pop in popularity, but you don't exit the honeymoon period. The honeymoon period just continues from August straight through November. The nominating convention is in August, so when the DNC is. From August to November, you're just in the honeymoon phase. You don't quite enter the scrutiny phase. You don't quite end the falling out of love phase. And so if you're them, that's how you kind of put together the timing and the momentum of it. You bring up a not irrelevant objection, which is let's just presume what they say is true, is that she doesn't want to do it. The assumption baked into that is that she has any choice in the matter, right? And as I told you before, most of the time, the people who we elect to run the government, they're not the ones actually running the government. They are pawns on a chessboard. I think that's true largely for most of the history of the Republican Party. I think it's largely even more true in the modern Democratic Party.
And I think that's something worth repeating over and 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 over again, because it seems like, I mean, the notion that there's a shadow government or a shadowy cabal or whatever, that's always kind of been around. But to see that it's not like the Illuminati or whatever, but that there is the WF and those entities. And then just within the FBI and the CIA and the other 3-letter agencies, that it's not as conspiratorial as it seems. And it's very clear that what we're saying is not a conspiracy, and it just is what it is.
Not the ones actually running the government. They are pawns on a chessboard. I think that's true largely for most of the history of the Republican Party. I think it's largely even more true in the modern Democratic Party. And so, yes, I have no idea. I don't know her, whether she wants to or not. The fact that her preference might have anything to do with it is an assumption that I think is largely false.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, well, she doesn't. Talking about Michelle Obama, like, oh, well, she doesn't want. She said she doesn't want to do it. She said she doesn't want to do it. Oh, like, it would be way outside of the realm of possibilities for a politician to lie, right?
Might have anything to do with it is an assumption that I think is largely false. The machine, once it decides that somebody's going to be put up to the job, they're going to be able to put the person up to the job who the machine demands. What I think is the better counter case to it happening is part of that machine operates on the self-interest of the cogs in it, right? The lobbyists, the people who have cultivated relationships with Joe, and actually more relevantly even Jill Biden.
Bernard, what would be the most, like, what's the most blue area of Florida? Like, would it be like a Miami or like Tampa, Orlando? What would you say is the blue city? Even though Florida is going to be much better than other states with blue cities, what would be the blue city of Florida? Orlando. Okay. And so I would be interested to compare crime stats from somewhere like Orlando to not even San Francisco or Portland, but just another blue city, again, not New York City, but another blue city where we see the same types of just loose on crime types of laws and compare that, because obviously it's not fair to say like the worst places in America, but that is a comparison worth seeing. Shout out to Blaine Griner. Welcome to the party. Said digging the vibe and the community so far. Well, dilly to you, Blaine. Welcome. Glad to have you. Brad is saying not saying crime is down because less is being reported is kind of cynical, isn't it? That view just lets you have a free out instead of looking at the stats and their findings. No, I mean, you could use it. You could use it that way if it weren't if the underlying thing weren't true, but it is true. There is more crime now. They are counting crime differently. And so maybe to simplify and just say, oh, well, they're just not reporting on crime. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Brad, but it's still reported in such a way that makes it seem like it's much better than it actually is. Burner Popcorn Accountant says Tampa has a lesbian mayor, but isn't totally crazy. Hillsborough County voted out some lefty county commissioners in the last election and voted in conservative. There we go. Shout out to our boy Melted Mind Media. Welcome. And look at this. Shout out to our boy again, out sponsoring himself with the 5 gifted memberships. Yummy. Take all that good stuff. Yummy. That's right. Every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Shout out to the Eerie Fairy Tales, Leslie McDowell, Shelly Babe, Sandy W, and Buddha. You guys are now able to get full access to the Discord server. I see Nick just dropped the link. Make sure you join and send me a DM so that I can get you the permissions so you can be part of the after party. What a champ indeed. Thank you, sir. So I always love to dive back in when we get a donation. Thank you so much.
The people who have cultivated relationships with Joe, and actually more relevantly even Jill Biden, right? I think that there's 2 things that would keep the status quo intact. And it's not the fact that Michelle Obama doesn't want to do it, because that's irrelevant. I think the 2 things that would keep the status quo intact are, number one is, it does appear that Dr. Jill Biden is very attached to the position that she has. And she's certainly got more of her wits about her than the man who we call the president of the United States. But I think the other thing working for him and for that first couple is there are a lot of people who have cultivated vested interests of being close to that hoop, right? They've been circling that hoop for a long time. Lobbyists and other special interests that are really tied in, that have invested. Think about a business that you might run as an industrial business. You think about capital expenditures or CapEx. In the world of politics, it's the CapEx that those lobbyists and their firms have put in to really spend a lot of money, hard money and political capital along with it, to say that we're finally close to the inner sanctum. They have a vested interest and they are already part of the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more deeply, Matt, a conflict between 2 different parts of the machine, the parts of the machine that have a vested interest in the status quo, even if it comes at the expense of trading off their overall probability of success. On a probability adjusted basis, it's still worth it to them because the payoff of having their guy who they've cultivated the relationship with, Biden, still makes their expected value worth it to take the lower shot with Biden, versus people who are a little bit on the outside looking in, don't have as direct control over Biden, but still have enough control over the machine to say that, hey, the payoff of having somebody else I'm closer to, plus the probability of even getting our guy rather than Trump, that's going to be the debate.
Damn. This man has thought about this before. Mother My Media said, by the way, when you were saying Dems can switch the nomination, it's by using the superdelegates. Yep. That's they're waiting for the DNC. Bernard said, I think St. Petersburg, Florida even has a socialist city council member. Oof. Come on, Florida. You gotta do better than that. No, actually, you're doing all right. Maybe the rest of us need to do a little better like Florida. Blaine says, ironically enough, I do. There was a convention I got drunk at where I woke up in a bathtub covered in towels, and there are pictures floating around entitled Jesus in His Tomb. Interesting story. That's never happened to me, but I'm glad that you're all right. Bernard said, Miami has shifted more conservative as of late. Is that because of Fresh and Fit? That's a joke. That's a joke. Well, Florida is super red. So places like Naples, Fort Myers, Sarasota, and Polk County. Word up. Word up. Oh, my cousins live in Boca Raton. Interesting. All right.
Plus the probability of even getting our guy rather than Trump, that's going to be the debate, not whether it's Joe Biden or Michelle Obama who does or doesn't want it. That's just what the public gets to see, which I think is mostly a distraction.
Kind of I think an unpopular theory that I've thought about, at least unpopular on the right, is I when it became clear to me that they were going to at least try to ride with Biden on this thing, which they're at least attempting to do on the Democrat side of it. I started thinking about there's sort of a third possibility here, which is, like you said, it seems as though they're doing everything they can to stop Trump. Obviously, with all the criminal trials, it's unprecedented what they're doing. But at the same time, is there a feeling among the real power brokers in the Democrat Party, the machine, as you say, that, hey, maybe they're okay just letting, okay, Biden loses, we give it, Trump wins. And this is the real cynical view where they say, well, it doesn't matter anyway, because the deep state and the bureaucracy is so fundamentally left-wing
that it doesn't matter who wins. And so that's, a cynical view, but I don't think it is, out of the realm of possibility that they're like, all right, I think, to use, I forget who said it, but, I think it was Ben Shapiro, using the guardrails of the system, that they can just take a mulligan, and Trump is going to be, again, I don't see Trump as doing a whole lot, as opposed to undoing a lot of the bullshit that we've seen with Biden, specifically with the border, changing foreign policy and saying, no, we're not sending money anymore. But in terms of especially like just culture on the ground here in America and people's everyday lives, I don't expect Trump to be some savior. And so while I do believe that this election is existential in the sense that if Biden wins, the establishment is just going to run away with it. It also means that what they're talking about, this kind of mulligan of like, okay, let's let Trump in there. The whole deep state is so against him that even if he does a little bit better, even if he's a little bit smarter than he was last time, then we'll let him do whatever, and we'll rig 2028. I don't think that's their plan. But, especially if they get all the way to putting the man behind bars. And of course, we know that that's only going to get him more support when they get him behind bars. And then they still can't get people to get off of the Trump train. Then you might see a lot more fuckery. Kevin said, if you take a look at California, places... If you look at California places too, they may have lost an elector or a rep. My state became more left because everyone moved out of the cities and into the suburbs and pushed out the conservative rural. Interesting. What was I going to say? Oh, fucking punctuation helps. Thank you. Arjun said Portland, Seattle have relaxed their laws because they are at a low in law enforcement professionals and a high in criminal activity. But that's not happening. That's not happening, right? Right, Brad? That's not happening.
The bureaucracy is so fundamentally left-wing that it's completely arranged against whoever the president is anyway, if the president's a Republican. So fine, he's president for 4 years, then he's gone, and then the bureaucracy comes in, undoes everything he did in about 30 seconds, and just continues back right along like it never happened.
That's why if Trump wins, then that's where the battle starts. Because this is just a placeholder to get us, again, if you think about the government as careening us off of a cliff, and Biden's just going to keep going, and Trump's just going to stop. Well, we still have to get away from the cliff. We don't want to be standing on the edge of the cliff. And so the doing that is going to mean continuing to do the work to change the cultural perception of the Democrats and the Republicans, change the perception of the MAGA mentality that it's not a Trump cult, but it's something that a lot of people think, and Trump just happens to be a figurehead. And when Trump's gone, there'll be another figurehead because a lot of people think this way and believe these things. So certainly the work is not done just because Trump may win. That is for sure. Kevin Johnson, that's why Project 2025 is planning on training as many conservative civil servants as possible. I gotta be honest, I haven't really looked into it. That's another. Maybe we'll do that. We'll do that with the vice president thing. I should have looked into it by now, but I have not done that. Project 2025. Making a note. Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but as far as I understand, it's kind of just pushing back on all this DEI type stuff. But again, I'm just talking out of my ass.
Everything he did in about 30 seconds and just continues back right along like it never happened. Is that too cynical of you?
No, I don't. You're talking to a guy who's never going to give you the answer that's too cynical of a view. Almost any question you could press, you could try me, and maybe we'll get there. But I think it's unlikely. I think you could get. I mean, it's a question of how cynical you want to get, right? You have a system that I said.
Let's get cynical.
Is hell-bent, has an anaphylactic reaction to Trump, but more than Trump, what he represents, actually. Like, that's really the essence of what the system has the anaphylaxis to, right? The anaphylaxis is an immune system response to an allergen. The allergen it's pretty darn close to the man, but even closer, if you're really right over the target, it's actually what he represents. So how do you eliminate that risk? The full menu of options is available, right? One is you beat him through the front door. They gave up on that option long ago. The other is that you change the system to be able to beat him on an unfair version of that system.
Get him in the back door.
The other is to take him out of the race one way or another. That whole menu of options. They've tried many ways already so far, but whatever that menu of options is, take him out of the race. And then you can get increasingly cynical. What you just talked about is maybe a kick the can down the road, hold your nose for 4 years, but acknowledge it as a temporary passing cloud. You could get even darker and more cynical than that, which is to say that, okay, well, we captured Biden. Why don't we play a new game of capture? I think that this is all, not to say, I like when people like you are brave enough to challenge people in our own movement to think outside of the linear boxes that sometimes any human being is trapped to think it. So
Brad's saying it's Project 2025 is a pro-white movement to implement a white first rule. I'm looking for some disagreement and I don't see any. So let's see. Let's see what we got. All right. Building now for conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. It's not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we're going, let's get a little bigger. Yeah, right there. If we're going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place, ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next conservative administration. This is the goal of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. The project will build on the 4 pillars that will collectively pave the way for an effective conservative administration. More about Project 2025. Building now for conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. The actions of liberal politicians in Washington have created a desperate need and unique opportunity for conservatives to start undoing the damage the left has wrought and build a better country for all Americans in 2025. It's not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we're going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place. And we got this. This project is the effort of a broad coalition of conservative organizations that have come together to ensure successful administration begins in January 2025. With the right conservative policy recommendations and properly vetted and trained personnel to implement them, we will take back our government. So far, I don't see anything about color, but let's keep reading. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is being organized by the Heritage Foundation and builds off the Heritage's long-standing, quote, mandate for leadership, which has been highly influential for presidential administration since the Reagan era. Most recently, the Trump administration relied heavily on the Heritage's mandate for policy guidance, embracing nearly 2/3 of Heritage's proposals within just 1 year. Paul Dans, former chief of staff of the Office of Personal Management, or the OPM, during the Trump administration, serves as director of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. Spencer, whatever, former special assistant to the president and associate director of presidential personnel, serves as an associate director of the project. And then we got the team. So where's the racism? I mean, Brad did, but we just read through the whole thing. And I mean, we can click on, let's click on the things. Let's go through all of these. The Broad Coalition. Okay, what does the Broad Coalition bring us to? Oh, the advisory board. Okay. And I'm sure, what are you doing? What did you just do? Sorry. Okay. The ACLU. Oh, very white. We got these people. Okay. Then we got the Trump administration. Relied heavily on the Heritage Foundation recommendations. 1 year after, oh, you can't see that. Shit. Well, what is this video? We got a video. Let's see. Is this it? All right, well, whatever. When you're taking 2/3 of the policy, mandate leadership, 5 individual publications, 3 policy recommendations. 64% of policy prescriptions included Trump presidency. Okay. Great first year. Pro-growth tax reform. All right. Let's just see if there's any. We'll do Control F and we'll do white. Nothing. Black. Nothing. Race. Nope. That's embrace. 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 Where is it? I don't see it. Where is it going? Oh, so there's no mention of black, white, or race. So explain to me, please, as an ignorant motherfucker who has just only read this right now, how you read what we just read and get, oh, it's for the white race. That is confusing to me. That is very confusing to me. Okay, just remember I said so. It's not going to say white power, obviously. Okay, yeah. So I'm asking, what is the covert language that actually means white power? Because I didn't see anything that even referred to race or color or type of person except for conservative. I mean, let's be nice. Let's be nice. Remember, we attack ideas, not people. We attack ideas, not people. Shout out to Train Jew. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So there's a great video of Vivek explaining the deep state to Andrew Schultz. It's worth watching. Yes, we have covered that. Great clip. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Well, okay, so what have you seen? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking, because we just read what it was. And it didn't say anything about race. It didn't say anything about color. It didn't say anything about anything except, moving the conservative movement forward. So I'm asking you, what is it that you've used to determine, oh, no, it's a pro-white white power thing? I'm willing to, like I said, I didn't know. I read it for you. I'm willing to see, oh, no, if you look into this part, what they're actually saying is they don't want, anybody with white people. I'm willing to look at that. But that's not there. Is just not there. Shout out to Zippy the Assembly for the Rumble rant. Except for the hairballs. That's a cat thing, all right? This is a dog. He's a dog. Look at that dog. Yeah. You're the one. You're the one with the hairballs. All right. Thank you so very, very much, sir. I very, very much appreciate that. Everybody put Zippy in the chat. Thank you. Thank you.
To think outside of the linear boxes that sometimes any human being is trapped to think it. So I think you should be doing more of that. But if you look at the overall set of incentives and what the goal is, what are they against? They're against what Donald Trump represents. And they've decided by hell or high water, they're going to make sure that what he represents does not come to exercise power in this country again. And so there's various ways they may go about undoing that, right? Their menu of options is beat him through the front door, beat him through the back door, prevent him from being able to run. You propose a waited out theory. There could be a different cynical theory that somebody offers, which would be a theory of if you can't beat him, join him.
Shout out to Mercy Joe. Welcome to the party. Good to see ya. Good to see ya. And again, Brad, I would love to be educated on why Project 2025 is a white power thing. But again, I haven't seen anything in the actual website that would lead anybody to believe that. Kevin said, Brad, you think you're the Ron Burgundy meme, but I am the one with the shopping cart right now.
What?
I don't get it. So he says, well, if the White House would stop using a pin and phone to deal drugs with, the U.S. people would not be forced to pay the bill. Thanks, Obama. What are you guys on?
Prevent him from being able to run. You propose a waited out theory. There could be a different cynical theory that somebody offers, which would be a theory of if you can't beat him, join him in a certain sense of the word. And so
that's why I'm a secular Christian.
I think any of those would be a loss for the American people. I think for the American people, the right answer is how do you actually dismantle that machine, the machine that underlies that entire system. And if that job were done, then we wouldn't be in the place where we are right now. Now, one of the things I like about President Trump is he has the ambition to run for the second term. If he had gotten everything he wanted to get done in the first term and done it all perfectly in a way that only God could, then he wouldn't need that second term. But he's going back for that second term with the spirit of saying, look, we learned a lot from that first term of being in there, from having the first 2 years hobbled by a Mueller investigation that stopped him from governing as an outsider president who still was the first time in a political role. Yes, we have a lot of learnings. And this time around, we're going to use those learnings to go further than we ever did to break that machine. That's what excites me about a second Trump term is I think the possibility of actually changing the game. And that's something that's bringing a lot of those Democrats and libertarians.
Okay. So again, somebody explain it. What is frightening about the implications? I just read the entire about page and the home page, and I'm not seeing it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't see it. What are the frightening implications?
And independence along too. That's not a partisan point, Matt. When you think about a lot of our own agenda or the fractures even within the Republican Party, opposing the ever-expanding surveillance state through the not the reauthorization, but the expansion of FISA 702, forking over more money like it's candy to foreign countries with no end or accountability. All of that is a product of a managerial machine in Washington, D.C. That's the machine that we actually need to break. And so are there many ways they could do this? One of which is to say that, okay, if you can't beat them, we'll join them. Yes, I think all of that's on the menu, but I think that ultimate victory looks like not only putting Donald Trump in the White House, but doing it with such a mandate and with the right people who are part of that movement to break the machine itself. And I think that Donald Trump will be the one man right now who's best positioned to do that for the next 4 years.
So I want to switch gears here and ask you about, there was recently a controversy that you were involved in. It's a couple weeks old now, but I find it really interesting. So I wanted to ask you about it. I believe it was the first episode of a new podcast.
Yes. Okay. So we're diving back in. So I was saving this for this part. I think I'm going to let him talk and then I'll address it. But earlier, context that I saw conservatives on Vivek videos commenting things like, "Oh, he's just an anchor baby. He doesn't have a chance." People can be so damn ignorant. So you guys remember when I don't even remember exactly what she said. I hope they play the clip, but I doubt they will. Should we get let's get the clip. Let's get the clip. Oh, God damn it. I meant to tweet out my thing and I didn't. And now, God damn it. All right, whatever. Hold on. God damn it. Okay. Ann Coulter, Vivek. Oh, no, I don't want to do that.
I think has some thoughtful perspectives on the future direction of our country, of our conservative movement. And on this question of nationalism and national identity, somebody I've been fascinated by for a long time and have interacted with on social media, but for the first time we're having at least a live form conversation in the offline sense of it. It's Ann Coulter. So Ann, thanks for coming on, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. Thanks for having me. That was a fantastic opening monologue. I too am a fan of yours. I'm going to make a point of disagreeing with you so that it will be fun. You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agreed with many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that.
We're interviewing Ann Coulter.
We will indeed get back to that. So if you hadn't seen it, that is what they are talking about. Real quick, what did I see here? So Brad's saying, I learned my lesson in IRL over 50 years of meeting and working with all sides and types. White Christian nationalism is behind this, and therefore the KKK. Again, you're just saying things. Tell me how you know these things. I want to be on the same page as you. If you know these things, then please give me the information instead of just telling me what you think. Tell me how you learned this so that I can learn it and everybody else can learn it, and we can be like, hey, we don't like Project 2025. That's what I would. That's why I want to learn. I'm not necessarily challenging you to just for the sake of challenging you. I want to know what is really good. So the fun thing, I've heard a few people say if any politician or billionaire was held up to a microscope, they would all be in jail. The Democrats do not know what the hell they have started. Agreed. Agreed. We're talking about the KKK. Like, come on. Like, do you think the KKK has any real power? Project 2025 wants to create a right-wing nanny state. It favors Christians. I mean, since when has the Republican Party not favored Christians? And favoring Christians over what? If we're talking about favoring Christians over Muslims, then I'm all for it. Because I think the Christian dogma is has a lot more wiggle room to actually not follow the dogma and not be a shitty, horrible, terrible person. Whereas in Islam, there's not a lot of wiggle room. You're either a bad Muslim or you're a bad person. It's a Simpsons prophecy, unlikely with same difference. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, guys? Give me some context here. What are we saying? Don't said, agreed, Galamtech. It's still low-key startling to see the viewpoint applied to up-and-coming figures. Yep. Brad said they must be the quiet ones because the out in the open racists are going Trump.
What?
Okay. But you're an Indian. Coulter. There you go. There you go. Kevin said, Brad, thanks for proving your age. I've seen a black man go to a grand wizard and walk away. They have no power. All Christian movements in the country are small and reactionary. White Christian nationalism is behind us, not behind this. I mean, there is a resurgence of Christian nationalism for sure, you know, with the whole Groyper thing, but it's not anything real. Again, when we look at the extreme right, and how the average right-wing voter looks at the fringe, they're like, that's silly, that's stupid. Nick Fuentes is not a serious person. Versus on the left, when they, if you're, an average left-wing voter, and then you look at the fringe, it's like, well, I mean, why shouldn't there be drag queen story hour? Why shouldn't we give the kids? So it's not the same thing. And I don't really get, again, where you're looking at anything that leads you to anything about race with Project 2025. And all I'm asking you is to show me what it is that you've seen that lets you understand that it's, about white Christian nationalism. Because if you can't do that, then you're just saying things. Arjun said, weird, because she slept with Dinesh D'Souza, but won't vote for a brown conservative like Vivek. Well, Indians got that deep dick in power. You know what I mean? Shout out to Jerry Album Israel. Welcome to the party. Said Project 2025. No good. Well, we just did look. Scroll back. We just read the entire thing, and it says nothing about race or. Where can we find any of what you're saying about white Christian nationalism in Project 25? Is there a video? Is there if there's an article? If it's as dire as you say, we got to know why and how. Especially because I don't want to be pushing that shit. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I am the atheist conservative. That's the whole thing. Christian nationalism is definitely an issue and something that I don't want to get behind. But I fail to see where that is connected to Project 2025. So the KKK said something like, nope. If that's the best you got, then you're wrong. Nope, wrong. Mr. E, so you think someone who does not care about dying would have mastered the art of living? Then again, not caring about living opens room and question about dying. Are we talking about religion? I definitely agree, but I do also think that there is damage in looking at our earthly life as a waiting room for what's next. Mercy said Project 2025 wants a smart wall and real ID, which is digital. Ostensibly, is to aid the deportation process, but citizens will be required to get one to prove their citizenship. So, okay, I mean, where are you getting this from? Let's pull it up. Instead of just speculating, let's pull it up and get accurate information. You and Brad, you guys keep saying things, but you're not giving me anything to go off. Did you know that Project 2025 is going to make all Indian people, have to crawl on their knees and hands and knees? No, I don't know that. So show me what it is that you have that lets you believe this, and let me determine for myself, do I agree or do I disagree? When you just say things and you don't, you don't bring anything up, it makes me think that you don't actually have anything to back up what you're saying. Oh, please give me the context of why being Indian disqualifies you from president. Please. Mr. East, a man calls himself Indian Jesus, and the real Jesus walks. What are you talking about, bro? I'm trying. White supremacy and KKK is a non-existent thing. It's just the accusation with zero proof. Bingo. That and maybe we're, again, I'm willing to be wrong, but you can't just say a thing and then expect me to be on it without any verification, any context, any evidence, anything. You're just saying things. The infrastructure. Did I miss something? Okay, so to prove their citizenship, the infrastructure of which is already in place. The rolling out of health info, back status, biometric, and CDCs will be friendly, more easy for bad actors in the government incrementally. What does that have to do with race? Yeah, I mean, you got to do better than that. I can't read that. Am said far right. Where are they? I've never met one. It's like a world war. It's like the word war. A war on terror. You can't identify it. Bingo. That's the point. Mr. E said, "God, make me a believer to disbelieve in you." And all right, you're done, bro. I tried. Brad says, I love you guys and appreciate your banter as always. Thanks for your input. I will send you some things via email. I hope we are all happy and this is for nothing. I hope so too. Shout out, Brad. Welcome, or thank you for being here, and you have a good night. Hey, we got Stephen Colbert Cheese in the building. Welcome. Indeed, we can read. I mean, not that, but I can read English. Zippy said, woke is a hate cult. It's not about equality, as equity is a caste system enforced by the collective. Yep. Shout out to Valiant Thor in the building. Welcome. Said the more they come after Trump, the more he morphs into an unstoppable legend. Hell yeah. Welcome. Okay. So yeah, we'll get there. You were talking about the KKK and stuff. The KKK has no political power. The KKK is a race-based organization. So you can't say the KKK, and then I didn't say anything about race, because talking about the KKK is saying anything about race. Valiant said the last time Democrats hated a political opponent this much was Abraham Lincoln. Oh, shout out to Valiant Thor with 2 strong comments coming in hot. Dilly to that. Welcome. We also got our boy Trey Williams. As I said at the top of the show, Happy Juneteenth. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But it's cool. It's hard to prove anything in chat. I'll send you the items. Yeah, I definitely will. Thank you. Oh, all right. I guess the wiki link for Project 22 doesn't show up. That means it's racist, right? Is that what we're going on? Or no, that means it's run by the KKK. Sorry. I apologize. The KKK, not racism, just the KKK.
That you were involved in. It's a couple weeks old now, but I find it really interesting. So I wanted to ask you about it. I believe it was the first episode of your new podcast. You were interviewing Ann Coulter. And at one point she said that she likes you a lot, but wouldn't vote for you because you're Indian. And there was a lot of outrage over that comment from Ann, of course, but also a lot of outrage at you because I guess you failed to scream at her and call her racist and give her a DEI lecture.
That's fucking cringe. That's fucking cringe. That's fucking cringe. So when somebody is being overtly derogatory based on your ethnicity, because Indian is not a race, okay, fine, whatever. But it's specifically saying because of your ethnicity, you can't do this, or I won't support this. There's nothing in between just letting it slide and giving her a DEI lecture. Come on, man. Come on.
So first of all, what's your take on what Ann said, but also the reaction towards you from people on kind of the left and right for not calling her a racist?
It was fascinating. I mean, I am driven by my curiosity. And so we did this podcast during the presidential campaign where once a week.
But Mercy, we just did, and none of this was in there. So again, I'm asking you to show me. Just show me. Show me what you're talking about. What documents are you talking about? We just pulled up the Project 2025 website and read everything they had. We opened up all the links. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just asking you to give me the documents. Show me the thing. Scroll the video back. We already went through this. And there's nothing about race or black or white or KKK or Christian or nationalism, or none of those words appear at all. And so if that is the case, what you're saying is true, then I just want to see it. I just want to see it so that I can verify it on my own, so that I'm not somebody who's taking random YouTube comments and basing my political policy on that. That's not a good thing to do. And that's nothing against you as a person. That's just a good rule of thumb. Don't take political points from YouTube comments. Show your own, show the sources, get the links. We have the Discord. You can email things to me. You can send me on Twitter. You can do all of this stuff. And you keep saying it and saying it. I'm not saying this. I'm saying that. Okay, I don't care what it is you're saying if you can't show me that what you're saying has any validity at all. Because so far you have not done that. Shout out to our boy, the Funk Master General. Another 5 gifted memberships. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you so much. And of course, we get those treats from Morty. We got running low. I got to get some more. Shout out to Steve and Clown World, Peter Blaker, Robert Ellis. And is that 5? And Dylan Soup. Dylan Soup, another gifted membership. There you go. Remind me to make sure, again, if you don't already have the permissions in Discord, that is the biggest thing that you get with the membership. So hit up Discord, hit me up, and let me know. Excuse me. All right, where we are. Arjun said, I see Real ID as beneficial. How can you not? I don't like the whole I don't necessarily, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the notion of the government just being able to switch on and off your legitimacy is kind of scary. I don't know if it works like that, but I mean, that's where my mind goes. So until I see more, when we go back to see other ways that the government could take over, then yikes. All right, let's dive back.
Right for not calling her a racist.
It was fascinating. I mean, I am driven by my curiosity, and so we did this podcast during the presidential campaign where once a week, or at least as often as I could manage, we would have an interesting conversation that I intended, if I was elected president, to continue. Shout
out to Alyssa Brumfield. Welcome to the party. Said hating that war criminal Kanky Doodle was when the Dems actually made sense before the parties switched names. Did they know? I remember taking Occupy Democrats as a real news source. There is no party switch. That never happened. That is a Democrat lie, and the Dixiecrats are the racist people who have always been racist and are still racist and continue to be racist.
Man, we'd have an interesting conversation that I intended, if I was elected president, to continue, because I think that could be the modern fireside chat that I think we're missing from our leaders, who we don't get to authentically really interact with anymore. So if I had been president, we would have continued that practice. But anyway, after the campaign ended, took a couple of months, recalibrated how I wanted to spend my time. And one of the many things I'm doing is I said, you know what, once a week we'll restart that podcast.
So send me where you got these documents. That's all. I don't know why you keep saying this as if the answer isn't going to be the same thing. It could be a book, it could be a document, it could be an article, it could be it. Just send it to me. That's it. That's all I'm asking. Why are you getting frustrated in all caps? Oh my God, the entire book. I've read books before. I don't know. I don't really like the implication, but I can read books. I'm just asking you where you are getting this information so that I'm understanding where you are coming from. And instead of understanding, oh, okay, I have information that you don't have, and so I understand it, but you don't because you haven't read it, let me give it to you. Give it to me then.
My time. And one of the many things I'm doing is I said, you know what, once a week we'll restart that podcast. And so that was the first relaunch of the Truth podcast. And I wanted to get a guest who, particularly in the campaign, I had seen her surface, right? It would pop up from time to time, different comments from Ann Coulter that were varying degrees of, I guess, passive aggressive towards me. Okay, she likes things I'm saying, but she clearly has some issue with me. I've never met the woman. So, I said, let's have a conversation. I'd be interested to see what's going on there. I'm very interested in the theme of American nationalism. I do consider myself a nationalist. I think Ann Coulter, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but probably considers herself a nationalist in a certain sense of the word too. But yet we have this differing vision of what that means. And so I thought it could be a useful and productive conversation. Turns out it was. She kind of came in with the very first comment that you mentioned, which is, I love a lot of what you have to say, but I couldn't vote for you because you're an Indian. Those are her exact words. And so that I thought was an interesting prompt to talk about American national identity. And so we spent the next hour diving deep into what it actually means to be an American. And to be clear, there are two competing views. And I don't think Ann Coulter is the only one who holds her view, which is why I think it was important. If it was just her, then it's just an idiosyncratic person who has an opinion like anybody else has an opinion. But I think she has an opinion that represents the intuition of a lot of people, including people I encountered during the Republican primary who felt the same way she did, that they couldn't quite vote for me because of one of two factors, either my religion or my lineage of not having been enough generations vested into this country.
Which is bigoted. I don't care if you agree or you disagree or you think there's a reason or it is bigoted. If you want to defend that bigotry, go on ahead. But you cannot say that it is not bigotry.
And I was genuinely interested in getting to the bottom of that view. My view of American identity is different. I think citizenship is about loyalty. That's what citizenship is fundamentally about. I think there are many people who have 6th generation, 7th generation, 8th generation Americans who lack the fundamental loyalty or even the knowledge that's a prerequisite for loyalty to qualify for citizenship. I personally think every high school senior should be able to pass the same civics test that we require of every immigrant before they become a naturalized citizen.
I mean, what could be more fair than that? Trace says, I find it funny that the moment some actual racism took, they couldn't call it out because they dug themselves into a hole and unable to call it without being called a hypocrite. I mean, yeah, because again, this notion of, well, you can't be racist and anything to say is perfectly fine. If you don't think that, then you're a leftist, or you're a loser. Oh, you're so gay. Why do you? Like, no, that was a bigoted statement. I am not in favor of bigoted statements. I'm not crying about it. I'm not telling anybody that they need a DEI lecture. But no, you just be like, hey, yo, that's fucked up. And now, because everybody's been, well, it's this, it's that, it's not, and it's not. You're defending bigotry. And Am, I'm waiting on you said wait until we get to her point. Please let me know what it is.
Same civics test that we require of every immigrant before they become a naturalized citizen. That's what I think. And that's a super controversial view that was called a new Jim Crow during the presidential campaign at me. So we've each taken our own criticisms, but they're very different views. And so that was my conversation with Ann. By the end of the conversation, people actually missed this, probably about 40, 45 minutes in. We were in the depths of one of our back and forths, at which point she kind of came out and said, okay, maybe I would vote for you, right? Which was interesting. And she said, I'm not committing to it. But then she said some things towards the last 5 minutes of the conversation that said, all right, well, I agree. What I basically told her by the end, which I think is true, is I don't think Ann Coulter would have that view. I don't think she would have been in a position to say that to me if we had actually had sensible immigration policies in this country in the first place.
She wouldn't have thought that if we had sensible immigration policies in the first place. The reason that the whites are like, oh, anybody with a brown is brown, you're the bad, you're the brown. Talk about the meme right. Talk about the meme right. The issue that we have with illegal immigrants is that, one, we don't know who they are. Two, they can commit crimes without any consequence. They can change the landscape of how we vote. All of those things. We don't not like brown. I mean, I don't know. Maybe y'all don't like brown people, but I can't do anything about that. But I'm not in favor of not liking people because of the color of their skin or where they were born or what language they speak or how tall they are or any of these things. If you are okay with that, I mean, fine, but don't tell me it didn't just happen. Don't say one. That is an amazing idea. I agree. Two, I could just see the hilariously brain dead criticism with that high school GED test to figure a citizenship test means kids are legal citizens. I mean, Argent said, Vivek said that one of, if not the biggest weakness is because he has brown skin after his time in Iowa. Why do people still care about color, even if they hold conservative beliefs? Racism or preference? I couldn't tell you, but, the same thing applies. The same thing applies. And I would say less, but the same thing applies when it comes to where you come to get these conservative beliefs. If you get them from Yahweh, if you get them from a different God, if you get there from any other reason, doesn't matter that you have the same beliefs. You have to do it the way that I do it. I'm not with that. Sorry, I'm not with that. Dylan said, Vivek, getting to the potential root of the issue, he should be in a position in the administration. Not sure what, but he should. I'm down for VP. Shout out to Nick. Welcome to the party. So when outsiders outnumber the host, everything changes to the detriment of the host. Huh? I don't know what that means. Ann said, you're not watching the interview. You're watching Matt Walsh. She wants nationalist loyalty that comes with generational occupation. She's against dual citizenship. She could have said it better. Okay. And? What does this have to do with the thing that she said that was racist or bigoted? If you don't think that Indian is a race, whatever, I don't care. She said a very bigoted thing that had nothing to do with anything that anyone was talking about. That's my point. I don't know why we're talking about other aspects of the interview. I'm talking about the part of the interview that I'm talking about. Yeah, she could have said some great things in the rest of the interview, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one thing that she said that I didn't like in the interview. And so you're telling me that because she said other things that I'm not allowed to be offended by bigotry? I think I am.
In a position to say that to me if we had actually had sensible immigration policies in this country in the first place. If we did not have 10 plus million people entering this country illegally, fundamentally changing the American character and way of life in a way that I believe that English should be the national language of the United States in a way that unites us. I actually do believe that anybody who's in this country illegally should be returned to their country of origin, and that we can and should have borders that we can secure and a national identity that we're missing, not just in the physical sense of it, but even in the sense of a civic revival of actual commitment in this country. I think we should eliminate dual citizenship.
Where did you find it? I don't understand. Where did you find it? What did you Google? What did you search? Who sent it to you? Ask that person where, it's not that complicated. Okay. As you said, it's not rocket science. You saw a thing, find the thing, send me the thing. Otherwise, stop making claims that you cannot back up.
Citizenship. I think it is nuts that you have U.S. citizens that are also citizens of another country when citizenship's about loyalty. Dual citizenship is an incoherent concept. And even worse, that you have people who may have dual citizenship that are elected leaders in this country. So after we've gone through that, and I shared with Ann that if we had gotten each of those actual principled positions right, I don't think she would have the view that she did. She basically agreed with me.
And so if that's what you're talking about, Am, then great. She eventually walked back her racist statement. That doesn't mean she didn't make a racist statement. Again, that doesn't mean that I can, oh my God, I can never listen to Ann Coulter ever again, and the Republican Party is blah, 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 blah. No, but you said a shitty thing. That's it. Do you disagree that she said a shitty thing when she said, I won't vote for you because you are Indian? If you think no, then we can agree to disagree. But other than that, we're talking past each other. Kevin said, oh my goodness, Mercy Chuck, that sounds like the classist leftist cop out. At least Christians tell you where in the Bible they are talking about. I mean, not always. They don't really know. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You are making a statement and then getting mad at me that you can't back it up. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking you to back up the things that you are saying. Shout out to Repent Now, said Carrie Lake. I think it's K-A, isn't it? Carrie Lake? But welcome to the party. Yeah, Carrie Lake. There we go. Is something happening with her right now? What's happening with her right now?
Right. I don't think she would have the view that she did. She basically agreed with me, which allowed me to tell her the truth, which is it is a shame when conservatives like her, and I think there are many like her, who effectively allow their own views to be defined by the left. Bingo. What do I mean by that? If your own views, your own most closely held views, or what you think are your most closely held views, are really just emotional knee-jerk responses to the people who are actually ruining our country, then the people who are ruining our country have defined what our own movement actually stands for, which is actually a success for them. Versus
Yup. In case you missed that.
Like her, who effectively allow their own views to be defined by the left. What do I mean by that? If your own views, your own most closely held views, or what you think are your most closely held views, are really just emotional knee-jerk responses to the people who are actually ruining our country,
AKA, I'm scared because you're brown and you look different,
then the people who are ruining our country have defined what our own movement actually stands for, which is actually a success for them. Versus the way I like to do it is say, okay, you got a lot of other people who are antithetical to the United States of America, but my own views aren't going to be determined as a backlash response or a reactionary response to them. I prefer to have an alternative vision of who we are and what we actually stand for. And that's what we're fighting for.
I said shit. Me too. Like the American identity. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. Mystery, I'm really trying. I don't know what I'm sorry, buddy. I don't know what you're saying. I'm asking for the information. It's almost like I would understand if I could read what you were reading, right? You'd think. But it's just, very convenient that you're all saying, oh, it's so terrible, horrible, no good, very bad thing, but I can't show you at all.
For rather than just reactionarily responding to certain fringes of the left. So that's what came out of that conversation. Of course, were there a lot of people who said that, oh, well, you know what, there's this guy who's, supplicating to white supremacy, and he's they didn't in this particular instance have been called Uncle Tom before, but it was the equivalent of whatever epithet was used in response. Sure. Do I care about that? No. Did those people stop to actually listen to the exchange of our conversation, or how we were actually even able to evolve Ann's own perspective where she ended rather than where she began? Of course they did. But that's a feature of modernity, where people collect their information through 60-second sound bites. But I do think it actually was a productive conversation, and I would encourage everybody to go listen to that hour, because it gets to the heart of two different competing visions on the right. And not just like on the right in the sense of neocon right versus nationalist right, even within the nationalist right, competing visions of what it actually means to be an American. And right now, Matt, those are some of the questions that are interesting me most, right? Because you got the Republican versus Democrat divide that mostly bores me just because there's not too much new to add to that conversation. Yeah, I care about getting the right result for the country. But you got the Democrat versus Republican divide. Then within the Republican Party, you, of course, have the neocon wing of the Republican Party, generally more sympathetic to a surveillance state, foreign aid and foreign intervention. And then you've got the America First wing, which believes that the first and sole moral duty of U.S. leaders is to U.S. citizens. But if we play the puck forward a little bit, right, skate to where the puck is going, even just fast forward this 4 years from now, I think there's an actual really interesting fissure would be an overstatement, but a really interesting diversity of flavors within that America First direction itself that I think is largely underexplored because people are too busy with the other two layers of division that I just laid out. And I think that there's two different visions of nationalism. I think there's a strain of nationalism tied to ethnic identity and lineage. I think there's a strain of nationalism that is uncompromisingly tied to loyalty and civic commitments to this country. And then I also think that there's a tension between a libertarian strand of this nationalism, which I happen to deeply share, that believe that our country is founded on a fundamentally constitutionally grounded vision where there's three branches of government. The people we elect to run the government run the government.
Jesus fucking Christ. You guys are so fucking soft. Is it a debate for me to, oh, you said a thing. How do you know that? That's not a fucking debate. That's just me asking you to back up the shit that you say. I'm willing to believe you if you can show me what you're saying is real. I'm not debating anything. I'm saying what we looked at has nothing there. You're saying there's more to it. Okay, send me the more to it, and then I'll see, oh, okay, you're right. It did. This is not a debate. The Indian Jesus Official at gmail.com or Indian Jesus Off right down here at on Twitter or Instagram or the Discord that is free to join. You're acting like I'm asking you to do, to prove the impossible. I'm just asking you, you saw a thing. I want to see that thing so I can judge it for myself. How is that a debate? How is that a debate? So everyone's going to happen. So just so you'll do what he said on national TV. I sure hope he does. I sure hope he does. What did he say that has to do with the KKK? So now, okay, now we're going national TV. So now we can bring up clips of what he said. Oh, now you're going to let it go. Now, when you move into an area where you can actually prove what you're saying, because it's on national TV, yeah, let's just let it go. But okay, I should believe you though, right? This is a perfect example of why you should not just take shit that people say. I am not saying that you are wrong. I'm not. I understood that one. I'm not saying anybody is wrong. I'm just asking you to verify the things that you are saying. If you get defensive by that and think that it's a debate when somebody asks you to back up the things that you say, then you're soft. So either have the shit to back up what you say, or figure out, we're getting hungry. We're getting a hungry dance, or learn how to distill what it is that you've learned so that when you say a thing, and I say, oh, really? That's interesting. Please tell me more. That you have more to tell me.
They're responsive to us, and the Bill of Rights means something. And then there's an alternative version of saying that, you know what, the left-wing nanny state was a really bad idea, but we might need a right-leaning alternative to that in order to implement via government a vision.
Brad, that is what I'm asking you to do. What work would you like me to do? That is what I'm asking you. I will do that right now. Just give me your source. So you want me to take while we're watching a conversation, you're giving me new information, and you want me to stop the show to then do research when you already have the information. Make that make sense.
Leaning alternative to that in order to implement via government a vision of what is right and what is good, and that there is a vision of the good that we espouse not just in our religious or family lives, but ought to embrace through the levers of government as well. And I think that's a really interesting and productive discussion that we are definitely going to have in this country. I don't think 2024 is going to be the year where we mostly do it, but I am increasingly interested in, even for myself, just framing the terms of that debate. And so that's why I enjoy having conversations.
No, I think anybody who is willing to get mad at somebody asking to verify a thing that you said, that is soft. I'm sorry that you don't like that is what you are. But you're not willing to back up the things you're saying, and then you're getting mad at me for not believing you. Be mad then. Be mad. I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to convince people of just saying, well, I think a thing. I think a thing, and you should believe my thing because I said it and I say things. So the thing that I said must be true. Do you know how many people think that way? Do you know how fucking dumb you would be to follow every person who said, well, I believe this thing. I know the thing. You said it was, it's a debate. It's not a debate. That's getting defensive. You're getting defensive because I'm asking you to verify the thing that you said. Moving on.
Even for myself, just framing the terms of that debate. And so that's why I enjoy having conversations with folks like Ann.
Yeah, I'm getting upset that you're getting mad at me for not taking bullshit information without the verification. Yes, that is upsetting. That is very upsetting that you think that I am somebody who would just take a YouTube comment and be like, oh, I believe that now. No. Yes, that is, I'm upset that somebody would think that about me.
Framing the terms of that debate. And so that's why I enjoy having conversations with folks like Ann that don't relate to just railing against the, radical Biden agenda or whatever it is that Republicans are normally supposed to talk about on television.
Yeah, I think you mentioned loyalty, which obviously is extremely important factor. I would add to that, which is related, is gratitude.
So she was saying that people with dual citizenship usually have divided loyalties and was using him as an example. If he has dual citizenship with India, as opposed to multi-generational U.S. citizens. My argument to that is Ben Shapiro, who says, I don't know how many fucking generations he's been here, but I'm going to guess that his parents at least had American citizenship. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Again, I'm willing to be wrong. But Ben Shapiro and many other people say that they are Israel over America. And that has nothing to do with their citizenship. That has nothing to do with anything but their mentality. And so if you want to talk about somebody who has a mentality that cares more about India than they do America, now we have a conversation. But I reject that is what Vivek is. So if, fine, she can say that, but she's wrong. Exactly. What are we talking about? I don't welcome terms from U.S. families going back multi-generations. They're still Marxist, so it's not the rule. That's the fucking point. That's the fucking point. That's the fucking point. That to say, oh, because of this thing, you are a bad American, or I can't support you in this. That is bigoted. That is bigoted. It's adorable that you think because, well, I don't have a problem with it. It's not bigoted. Okay, you're just okay with bigotry. Not you, Alyssa, specifically, but anybody who's okay with it. If you are trying to say that there was nothing wrong with saying that, then I respectfully disagree. I'm right, but you can be wrong if you want. I wasn't trying to convince you or anyone else. I was just saying why it concerns me. Okay, but again, if you're saying this is why this concerns me, I say, oh, okay. How is that the case? And so, well, it's not rocket science. Just look it up. After we looked it up. I did look it up.
As well. And I think one of the problems that we have now is, well, first of all, we're importing a lot of people that have absolutely no gratitude whatsoever to the country that they're coming to. You see these videos of immigrants showing up to whatever city and complaining about the accommodations. There was a hearing in New York, and you had immigrants from, I forget which country, but they were complaining that they were not being provided the right accommodations. But then you also find that among natural-born citizens who have this lack of gratitude ingrained in them, instilled in them very explicitly and very intentionally from birth, from the school system. And that's why you get a lot of this. This what really troubles me is this like deep feeling of both guilt among many Americans, especially white Americans, and also resentment towards their own ancestors. We live on stolen land.
Sure.
We committed a genocide was committed against the natives, and so on and so forth. Of course, that isn't true. But
shout out to our boy Zippy, DS Emily. And around it goes. Not anymore. We're done with that. We're done with that. If you say things on the internet, be prepared to back it up. That is not my rule. That is just a rule a rule of thumb that, is probably will benefit you. So if you can't back things up, then maybe before you say things, think about how you know that. Because again, if you're making wide aspersions, then people are going to want to know about that. So if you don't know about it, then you can say, I don't really know. I was reading the documents and it seemed like it was going this way, but I'm not really sure. I would have to look it up again. Okay. Or, hey, there was something, so we can get rid of that, please. There was something that, the documents are there. I read it and it was pretty clear. I don't remember exactly what it said, but we'll get back to it. And then we say, okay, we'll table it then. I don't understand why that's wrong.
The genocide was committed against the natives and so on and so forth. Of course, that isn't true. But all of that plays into this, doesn't it? And
totally, absolutely.
What do we do about that? Like that's how do we address that? How do we get people to actually have some real gratitude for the country they live in and everything that's been provided to them and all the people that made that possible for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the way we've got to be looking at this in terms of loyalty and gratitude. I do think that we have a mass illegal migration problem and a mass immigration problem in this country we need to deal with. But I think I'm going to draw an abstract parallel here. I sort of see this amongst folks on the right in the same way that I'll talk to like the Bitcoin crowd or the crypto audiences, where just because you're advocating for a good thing doesn't mean that all problems are going to be solved by that good thing. Okay. And so like that's when I talk to many of my
that character limit. Don't worry about it. If you got more to say, just say it. I'm paying attention to the chat. So if you need multiple messages, go for it.
Pro Bitcoin friends and largely views that we share in common, I'll say, okay, but this is not going to necessarily automatically solve the problem of whether or not we get involved in foreign wars, right? You're putting too much on the shoulders of this one issue. I'll draw a parallel piece of advice that I give to a lot of my friends on the nationalist right is that we absolutely need to uncompromisingly go outside the Overton window of the past to do what is required to fix this mass immigration problem in the United States of America, or we won't have a country left. But that alone is not going to be sufficient to revive our own missing national identity, even amongst the people who are native born for generations in this country that also contribute to the complete dissolution of our national identity too. And so you can't get in the business of fetishizing one solution when in fact there's a deeper vacuum of identity and purpose in this country. And the immigration problem is really a symptom rather than just alone a sole cause of that actual problem. So how do we do it? There's not a policy I'm advocating for in any sense, but it's a thought experiment, right? Obviously, you seal your border to anybody who's entering this country illegally. Anybody who's coming to this country should know something about the country. Bring the citizenship test up front, even for getting a green card, even getting into the country. You think about actually people who are getting citizenship should have even more civic commitments that they're buying into, maybe financial commitments. That's for the immigrants. But for the people who are already here, a counterpart to that, as a thought experiment, I'm not advocating this as policy, but as opening our minds to the kind of way we should be thinking. If somebody would accept a $75,000 check and leave and renounce their U.S. citizenship and go to another country, and their only condition was they never get to come back, and they would actually take that,
then I would definitely have an issue with that person being the president of America. But that's not Vivek, is it?
I'm not sure that they should be a citizen of this country in the first place, really. I mean, the reality is I think there's many people in the United States of America who are completely agnostic to their citizenship, who view the United States as some type of economic zone that gives them something that they're supposed to be entitled to. So somebody were going to go just as happily to Canada or to England or Western Europe and live a particularly happy life with some startup life investment and to go do it. I don't think that that person is in any sense loyal, in the sense that our founding fathers envisioned as citizens as being loyal to the United States of America. Capital C citizenship is missing. And so should we implement some large mass scale program like?
Thank you for hanging out, Mercy Choke. I appreciate the back and forth. And again, I'm very, very open to your position. As you said, you'll email it, and so we'll leave it there. And by the next time, we'll see if we're on the same page. And I'm happy to read and have my mind changed. But thank you for being here. You have a good night.
In this country, I don't think that that's practical or advisable, but we have to bring back what citizenship is about. I think we have to revive some sense of civic duty. I go back to, it's not one solution, but it was why one of the policy proposals I did advance in my campaign was that literally every high school senior has to vest fully into their citizenship. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the government can't come knocking on your door or censor you from speaking no matter who you are. But if you want the privileges of citizenship, if you want the privilege of selecting who actually leads this country, You should know something about the country. If you're casting a vote at the ballot box, you should probably know, if you're casting a vote for president, what branch of government the US president actually leads. I don't think that's too much to ask. I think you should probably know who wrote the Federalist Papers. And both of those, by the way, are questions on the naturalization exam, the 100-question pool that they draw from, which I think should actually draw from far more knowledge of the country than we demand even today. Mm-hmm. So that's not a one-size-fits-all, panacea, but it's an example of the kind of thing we need to think about to cultivate civic duty in this country. Do I favor a mandatory draft? No, I don't. The libertarian in me would never allow for me to compel or have a government that compels you to serve, because in a certain sense, it's not even service then.
I forget who was saying it, but talking about like a draft should only be used for like if the homeland is being attacked. Like if they do, whatever and whatever in Ukraine or Israel or whatever, and they need more and more and more and more and more U.S. troops, then I don't think a draft should be used for that. However, I do understand the need that, like, if we're getting attacked, we're getting attacked. I sent you an article tying Christian national movement to P25. All right, let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. Rumble comment. Not seeing anything. The Indian Jesus Official at gmail.com. Oh, on Twitter. Gotcha. Okay. Messages. No messages. Indian Jesus off. Like that. You sent it to that? Because I'm getting nada messages. Oh, bro, I'm trying. Again, I'm not trying to fight anybody. I just want to know what it is that you guys know that I don't know. That's it.
To compel or have a government that compels you to serve, because in a certain sense, it's not even service then. But is the spirit of people who serve their country and actually gain allegiance to their country through service something we need more of in this country? Yeah, I think so, actually. And I think we also need to restore a government that people feel inspired to swear that allegiance to. Right now, as I said earlier, the people we elect to run the government, they're not running the government. They're not engaged in public service. They're engaged in self-service. So when you see congressmen effectively lining their pockets or bureaucrats lining their pockets versus adopting simple policies that most Americans agree with, like the idea that you should not be trading stocks as a congressman or a senator or a bureaucrat, why is that serving the interests of the American people? Answer, it's not. Implementing things like term limits, shutting down large swaths of the federal bureaucracy, returning that money like a dividend to the American taxpayer. That loyalty is a two-way relationship, right? The reason citizens don't have a loyalty to the country, one of the reasons, is that the people who lead the country don't have their exclusive loyalty to our own citizens either.
Right, and that's why I don't want to hang on the Ann Coulter comment too much, and but the reason that is so frustrating is because, like Vivek said, the line of thinking is that, the white man who's been here for however many generations has more loyalty than somebody who's only been here for one generation. And maybe on a balance of probabilities, that might be a reasonable thing. But we're talking about individual people. And as we've said, there are many people who have been here for hundreds of years and are socialists, commies, lefties, whatever, even though their parents are conservative. So the idea that just being Indian and not talking about the loyalty that this man has shown to our country and his plans that clearly he's thought deeply about is bad. Arjun said, for Indians, it's rare to be liberal and in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, like you don't see a lot of like feminist Indians. So I don't get it. I don't get it. And clearly, I'm biased as an Indian man myself, but I don't get it. I'm trying to make it make sense, but it doesn't make sense.
Country. One of the reasons is that the people who lead the country don't have their exclusive loyalty to our own citizens either. But I went to places like the south side of Chicago during the campaign. I went back to Chicago more recently. I went to mostly minority neighborhoods. We're in a mostly black bar that I happened to be hanging out at, meeting some folks. They came up to me and said, "Hey, I'd have voted for you, and I'm going to vote for Trump this year." I said, "How do you usually vote?" He said, "Mostly Democrat." Number one issue on this guy's mind was actually Ukraine. He could not understand why we're actually sending over hundreds of billions of dollars more to Ukraine.
I said, shit, me too.
I didn't get to his views on the surveillance state, but I suspect he might have agreed with me on that one too. And so I think that part of what we're missing in this country is it's this downward spiral where, because the elected leaders of this country have abandoned their loyalty to the citizens of this country have in turn begun to abandon some of their loyalty to the country. And so how do we reverse that downward spiral? I guess you might as well start at the top to at least put people in charge who behave like and actually mean it, like they owe their sole duty to the citizens of this country. And it's amazing how trust and loyalty are a two-way relationship. I think part of the distrust and the lack of loyalty comes from the fact that the government doesn't trust its own people. The fact we have a government.
Yeah, but he's Indian. So like, I mean, Indian, right?
That has systematically lied to its people about a lot of complicated and uncomfortable topics, both from the left and from the right, over the last 25 years. And for all we know, probably the last 100 years, doesn't help the matter either. I think a government that got into office and did what I think, by the way, a major media company should do, but the same thing I would say about a government is to get in there and say, here's where we lied to you. It's inexcusable. Go back all the way from, you could pick your favorite, the basis for the 2008 bailouts, the basis for entering Iraq, the Steele dossier, the investigations around how the Hunter Biden laptop story was suppressed, whatever, the COVID origin, everything we knew about COVID-19 or the vaccines or the risks thereof before they were rolled out, whatever it is, pick the topic, be comprehensive and say, we lied to you and it's unacceptable and you should never trust us again. But here's how we're at least going to give you a basis to rebuild that trust. And the people we're going to put in charge are no longer going to be people who are unaccountable to you. All those bureaucrats, most of them are gone anyway. And the people you elect are the ones you actually have responsive to you. And Thomas Jefferson, I think, said it well. I'm going to get it approximately right when he said, what is it? The government you elect is the government you deserve. Well, that's not really true right now because the government you elect has very little to do with the binding edicts that are issued. Most binding edicts onto Americans today don't come from elected representatives. They come from bureaucrats. But if you restore a system in which the binding edicts that actually bind you come from the people you actually elect, you have a greater sense of loyalty, especially when those people you elect owe their loyalty back to you rather than to some Ukrainian kleptocrat or bureaucrat or Azerbaijani invader of 120,000 Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh outside of Armenia. I mean, we could go down straight down the list of where our elected leaders have demonstrated.
Zippy, come into the after party, and I need to hear why your position on IP rights are IP rights. And the same thing with the Project 2025. I'm not saying that you're wrong about IP rights. I just don't understand what your position is, and so I would like to understand it to then see, do I agree or do I disagree? That's fair, right?
I mean, we could go down straight down the list of where our elected leaders have demonstrated their actual loyalties lie, including to their own pocketbook. Changing that, I think, will set into motion, I think, a positive loop, right? A virtuous cycle. And then you build that type of civic knowledge and identity and the hard requirements attached to it, starting at a young age for people who vest into citizenship in this country. And I think those would be some serious steps in the right direction.
Well, I gotta let you go, but let me. I want to follow up on one last thing that you kind of alluded to there. I get in trouble sometimes because I'm pretty skeptical about this idea of a kind of universal right to vote, and that what we need to do is make sure that as many warm bodies are in the ballot, casting a ballot as possible. And you mentioned if you want to vote and take part in deciding who runs the government, you should have some basic knowledge on, about what the government is and how it's run.
Is Matt not aware that like one of the big things that Vivek ran on and already talked about in this interview was the test to get the right to vote, and the fact that he ran on that by a lot? Because it seems like he's forgot about that.
You should have some basic knowledge on, about what the government is and how it's run. Would you support? It would never ever happen in a million years, but just in theory.
So before we get there, Kevin says IP is the democratic / market happy medium, so that we don't have authoritarian control of tech by government. It allows the intel to get dispersed, except maybe deep black site stuff. So, Kevin, you're in favor of IP rights, or you want to abolish IP rights, or something in the middle?
Would you support some sort of policy that, okay, here's 5 like 3rd grade level civics questions that you have to answer correctly in order to vote? Would you support something like that in a crazy world where it actually happened?
You realize I came out with this in the presidential campaign, and it got me a lot of trouble, actually, right? So this is exactly, I think, a direction that we ought to be talking about in this country at the very least. And here's the thing, Matt. A lot of people who might, before those who hear that and get all up in arms about it, just to pause for a second and realize we already do that. We actually already do it. We do it for anybody who's a naturalized citizen in this country.
Oh.
If you want to come to this country, you're paying taxes. You might have people who are paying millions of dollars in taxes, but cannot vote at the ballot box for good reason. Because we demand 2 things of you before you vote in this country if you come here legally through the front door, at least when the system's working as it's supposed to.
Kevin said, I'm a little conspiracy brained, as you should be. We all should be. I like IP. I'm trying to be in the tech field because I think the blue collar worker goes back to 3D printing guns. Manufacturing impressive things will be done in garages. Yeah, and so this is kind of again maybe a zippy between the two of you if you can get a surface level thing. Maybe not. But Kevin, another great reason to become a member and join the after party. But this is my thing is that if that's like the base level of personal ownership. And so if we don't have personal ownership, then how does the government or the whatever authority not own everything? Rabbit hole at worst, best of using the courts to steal IP and slower stop the spread of information and innovation. At worst. How so, though? How? Again, explain the process. Not the. I get that you think this thing. I'm asking you how this thing will occur.
If you come here legally through the front door, at least when the system's working as it's supposed to. Number 1 is that you know something about the country. You got to pass a civics test with a passing score of 60% that most existing U.S. adults right now would fail. And number 2 is you have to swear an oath of allegiance exclusively to this country. Which
can't have this guy being president. I mean, God.
Is why the concept of dual citizenship makes no sense, because that completely negates the oath of loyalty. But those 2 things, we already ask you to do it if you're a certain class of person. So if we already ask certain class of people in this country to do it, why on earth don't we ask the rest of the people in this country to do the same thing? It doesn't actually make any sense. And our founding fathers, and not just the founding fathers, but the framers of each of our constitutional amendments, they knew exactly what they were doing. I mean, the Bill of Rights is really expansive, not a little expansive. It's really expansive in terms of the scope of protections that it gives you. You have the right to express any opinion. People forget that. That's what the First Amendment protects. Not to express some opinions, any opinion. People talk about misinformation, or we'll talk about threats or violence. None of those are opinions. Any opinion, you have the right to express it in the United States. Any religion, you have the right to practice it or not in the United States of America. Or the right to arm yourself, something that's unheard of in most other nations that even guarantee you some of the same rights on paper as the United States, do not offer you that same set of protections. So you go straight down the list, First Amendment on down, get to the 14th Amendment. You're talking about 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, the Reconstruction Amendments. You're talking about no discrimination on the basis of race when it comes to the right to vote. You move further down the list of amendments, no discrimination on the basis of gender when it comes to the right to vote. And yet, so our framers of the Constitution, the amendments knew they were doing. There is not a single line in the U.S. Constitution that offers some type of universal right to vote. I mean, what would that even mean? Right? The people who are in the country, do you get to vote if you're not a citizen? No, you have to be a citizen to vote. Well, how do you become a citizen? You have to pass a civics test. You have to actually take an oath of loyalty to this country. So
makes sense. Makes sense. So Kent says basically what Zippy is talking about was that tech and IP can be just hoarded by a company and kept on shelves in IP limbo. Okay, that's starting to make sense. Maybe it's not a moneymaker, but maybe it's not unique enough to patent. Less IP rights, more usage of IP rights, less control of innovation and refinement. I'm not really for no IP rights. Okay, so that's a better understanding than I had 5 minutes ago, because I thought you were abolish IP rights. And so it sounds like the issue, if and I mean, feel free to correct Kevin, but it sounds like the you're talking about how maybe not monopolies per se, but people who have too much power in the market can artificially suppress competition by buying that IP and getting rid of competition that way. Is that kind of the road that they, or the rabbit hole that you're going down, Zippy?
Well, how do you become a citizen? You have to pass a civics test. You have to actually take an oath of loyalty to this country. So the concept that you're talking about, the notion that it's controversial, I think you should, of course, in some superficial sense, it will be, but I would dispense with that.
Okay, hold on though. Why? So Disney shouldn't get to keep Mickey when it's in the cultural zeitgeist. Why not? Because this is the heart of it. Why should I have the right to like be the Mickey Mouse Jesus? Why should I have the right to do that when there's so much value in that intellectual property and I had nothing to do with it? Why shouldn't Disney get to keep that? Especially when we already have the types of laws that allows Steamboat Willie to now be public domain. At the very worst, would you not just want that time period of when or how long intellectual property is protected to be shorter? So maybe it's 10 years or something like that. So you have the opportunity to benefit from having a unique idea. But then because we want what's best for everybody, that if you have a good idea, you can't hoard that idea, but you have a decade to make sure that you can profit off of that good idea before everybody else just gets to use it. And so useful tech, the useful tech take is that the dude who invented the plow 1 million years ago, his name isn't record. His work is so after. His name isn't record. His work. Oh, his name isn't record. His work is. So after a time, you made your money off it in the public domain. Yeah, it's the tricks they use to not allow it to go to the public domain. So it is supposed to be. There you go. There you go. So that sounds like the rules around IP need changing, but the notion of IP is not a bad thing. As we said, the monopoly aspect of IP is what I'm annoyed at. I prefer rev share, 20% of revenue intake from trade. No one can control it, but they can more easily make money off of it. So how would this work if I wanted to be the Mickey Mouse Jesus? Using what you're saying right here, what would be the process of me going to Disney and them not being able to tell me, no, you can't use Mickey Mouse, that's our intellectual property, and I say, well, actually, rev share 20%. What would that look like? The more complex IP rights are, the more government and corporations will screw things up. So we need to simplify it to a point. Monopolies cannot game the system. I don't disagree with that, but I think that's something that is that's looking at IP rights in a vacuum, as if there's not an entire system to keep the government and corporations in cahoots. It's not the fact that they're IP rights that's caused that. I mean, unless you disagree. I mean, again, I'm open to anything. But I don't think it's the fact that IP rights exist that make the corporations and the government so closely tied. And that's what it seems like you're saying. As if we get rid of IP rights and the government and corporations will be completely untethered. Not really.
I think you should, of course, in some superficial sense, it will be. But I would dispense with that because that is literally the status quo as it exists right now. The only question is, should we expand the scope of people to whom that already applies against the backdrop of a constitution that effectively contemplated some basis of civic duty to be a basis to vote? Back at our founding, that was land ownership. Many states required land ownership. The idea that you had to have some skin in the game in order to vote. I do not think that's a good idea. I don't think that makes any sense in the modern United States of America to be a landowner. Just because you own a plot of land, you could have had somebody come to this country from another country, doesn't really swear an oath of loyalty, doesn't know the first thing about a government, but buys a plot of land. Should they be able to vote? No.
I think that he makes a good point too there. And so I'm gonna say the subscription one is gonna be just like we pay for Microsoft software. But how and again, genuine question here, how does that translate to, we thought that the subscription model in general for the market would be good, but now you have 30 different subscriptions, you don't remember which ones you want, and you can't use all of them and whatever. What to say that a subscription model based on intellectual property wouldn't create more complexity in the market itself? Mr. E said, I believe it was the Jackson guitar bought by your cop father. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. The root of IP rights is exclusive distribution. The exclusivity forces the state and corporations to band together to screw everyone over. Right. But what I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing with this, but that's because of a system that already exists for everything to force the state and corporations to band together. You see what I mean? It seems to me as if you are placing IP rights as the linchpin, that we get rid of IP rights, and that separates government and corporations. And I'm saying it's the other way around. That the way that IP rights are abused is because of the fact that the state and the corporations already band together to screw everybody over. That's what I'm trying to say. Kevin said, well, that's where automation takes over. Sure, you're going to need space, but still a 3D printer. I get parts for my headset and the company doesn't and can't sell it's how cars? It's how cars wait. I get parts for my headset that the company doesn't and can't sell it. That's how cars get repaired. Can you say a little more about that? Because I get what you're saying, that so like with if your headset breaks or whatever, then you can't just get like a third party piece, right? And with a car, you can get aftermarket stuff, third party stuff that fits, as long as it's what's the word, or the like, is it DOE? Do you know something? I don't know. I think this is a great conversation to take to the after party. Guys, if you are not already in the Discord, you should definitely join. It is free to join. But again, if you are a member of the channel, again, all you got to do is scroll right below this video and hit that join button. And if you're on your phone, I'm sure there's a button somewhere around here. There is a linked pin to the top of the chat that will take you right there. It's only $3.99 a month, and we hang out and have a good ass time. I can see Nick is already in the after party. Let's take this one and close it down. ZB says, how can a government and corporation control what anyone can use and trade? The local markets would dive in on that. Replacing big business has too much overhead. Let me clarify. Revenue shares, 20% of total trade. Yeah, I got that. But so how can a government and corporation, the same way they do with everything else? It's just that specifically shelving IP wouldn't be as easy. So like, the way that they can, just go and whisper in Zuckerberg's ear and be like, hey, we don't want this, that, and the other. It would still work that way. So again, unless I'm misunderstanding your position, it seems like you're saying that if we were to get rid of IP rights, then the government wouldn't be able to go to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever and have influence. And that doesn't connect to me. So again, I suggest you come on through the after party and let me know what you know, because I don't know what you know. So let's come back to what Gomtech said earlier about I saw conservatives on Vivek's video being he's an anchor baby and doesn't have a chance. I'm rather disappointed with how people responded to that. And I'm afraid to say anything that like somebody's going to disagree with, because they're going to feel like I'm personally attacking them. Like I have my own opinions, and I made a YouTube channel so that I could talk about my opinions. So anything that I say that is my opinion that doesn't align with your opinion is not a dig against you. I'm just saying what I'm saying. And I agree with Guamtech, and I don't think that anything that could have or would have been said in the Ann Coulter interview would have undone what she said at the beginning, unless she straight up said, oh, I was wrong. That's it. So let's shout out our boy Zippy DSM Lee for the 3 different Rumble rants. Thank you so very much. And then, of course, we had the sponsor of the stream, as usual, the Funk Master General, sending out not only $10, but 10 gifted memberships. So again, guys, if you received a gifted membership, make sure not only do you join the Discord, but send me a DM, because joining you when you join, you just get the access to the free stuff. And now, because of the Funk Master General, you get the good stuff. So yeah, let me know if you got that membership, and we'll get you in. We're headed over to the after party right now. Other than that, I just want to say thank you so very, very much for hanging out with me, guys. I really, really do appreciate it. Whether you're able to, open your wallet or not, I really do appreciate it. I know that you could be spending your time doing anything else. So the fact that you are here and engaging and challenging me and challenging other people and doing, having the hard conversations that we all need to have, that is what this is for. And it's not for everybody. People are going to get mad and get in their feels and get triggered and not want to do that. And that's the name of the game. That's just the name of the game. It's not for everybody. Not everybody is willing and ready to have difficult conversations and be willing to maybe be wrong, but think that they're right and say, no, everybody's telling me I'm wrong, but I know I'm right, and here's how I can prove it. That's what you need to do, especially with all the semantic obfuscation and dogma, right? So shout out to you guys. Thank you so very much for hanging out. I really, really do appreciate it. Once again, a big shout out to Zippy the Strange, as well as our sponsor, the Funk Master General. Thank you so much. And a big shout out to all of the disciples. Very, very, very much appreciate you. And I will see you shortly in the after party. Once again, that is Marty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.